Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Lifting. I'm not sure what today's date is. If you could look at the date there, Joanna.
Today's date is the 19th of July, 2024.
There we go. All right, since I'm not looking at my computer, I tend to forget that. So, we are still at the time of this recording, we are still at the Serata, the day after the 2024 Disclosure Now conference put on by Brian Singh and Ada Farad. It was actually very well done, and I will say they did a beautiful job with it. Speakers were awesome. We got to talk with Miles Johnson, awesome guy. The reason we are doing this particular episode here is we filmed our lecture, and I have a few films I will put in between, like I usually do, about some of the happenings here at the conference. Just know there was a few attacks here, V2K, heart jabs, the usual BS. But then some V2K, amongst the crowd, I will say, amongst people don't know, I recognized the patterns in this. And just it was enough to try to break up the conference. However, it was not as bad as the warning I got on the World Sasquatch episode, the one about Agartha, where I put the thing about the V2K operators. Yes, did some things to that degree happen? Yes, it did. Did it happen to the degree by which was shown in the dream, that threat? No, it absolutely did not. It actually, it was more like 90-10 in our favor. Making connections, making some money, not as much as I would have liked to, but it worked. So that's where that whole power of co-creation comes in. And that's also what we say. Miles Johnson said it at the end. Other people we came across said the same thing, and I just loved it. So I will say, we are going to put the snippet in there, or the full entire lecture we did. I'm sorry that Joanna was not on camera. The camera angle was weird because there was another camera in a spot I would have put our cell phone. So with that said, you are now going to see the lecture, and we will then go into the galactic portion. Oh, we got to do the law of one. That's right, Joanna.
We are all one, and when one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. Therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, that only the highest good be done. We pray for you, your friends, your family, your loved ones, to let healing energies in. Let them love you, let them nourish you, and let them bring you to your highest good. We ask for benevolence now to come in with no conflicting agenda, to come in and to support this conversation that we're having, and to support everyone as they listen to the lecture and the channelings, so that you can actually hear them and understand them in peace. We ask for benevolence to sweep away any maleficent or malevolence around in order to have people be able to hear this clearly. And with that, we say we send great blessings your way, and so be it.
So be it, and so it is. And I now open this circle to true benevolence with no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time. And Isaac just said, new word of the day, malnificent. So, I will remember this in the future. So, there you go, everybody. Hashtag malnificent. So, and he lost it. So, okay. It's a mix of malevolence and magnificence. So, which is a contradiction, oxymoron in terms. So, therefore, it is ironic. Therefore, it's funny. That's why I say it. So, we cut here to actually show you the lecture right now.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Hi, guys. Can we settle down? Okay. So I have invited Joanna and Christopher Jacobs here to be a part of this conference. Chris has been my number one go-to guy for having psychic readings, clearings, and so forth. So I was super happy and pleased that he accepted the invitation to be a part of this conference. Chris is the owner and creator of The Lifting with Joanna. Yes, Joanna Michaels, by the way. They are business partners and beloveds. And I had something to read off, but I don't have it because my phone won't open up. So I'm kind of just doing this from the heart. But I think you'll be excited to hear what he has to present today. And he's in touch with Sasquatch people, but he's going to be talking about a lot of different things that I think will gain your interest. So welcome both Joanna and Christopher. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
So, hi, and thank you all for coming in here. I know that what is set on the schedule is saying if they're in protection, and we're going to cover that. But really what we need to cover is probably the number one question that we're asked that will help you understand why you want to do the etherics and the protection. So the number one question that we are actually asked about is what is going on? Why is the world like this? Right? What is actually going on? What is happening? What are happening to the people around us? I don't even recognize people anymore. They don't recognize me. What's really happening? This conversation is a long one if you really want the big details. So what we're going to do is have to give everyone a big picture view of what is going on and the whys and where we're going to understand the etheric protection side of it. And so we asked that we started on time because we really wanted to do a really good presentation, and then we really wanted to allow enough time for you guys to ask questions. So this is kind of going to be very mind expanding. We've never done this talk publicly before. This has only been on our paid channel. We do have the lifting.net where you can go to, where over the years there's been many different shows underneath it, like we do the World of Sasquatch. Chris is a channeler, channeling for years. The Sasquatch, we kind of have an agreement, and we actually have a channel designated to them for when they want to come out and they want to talk about certain subjects. He loves doing conspiracy shows. He has a friend he does conspiracy sector with. We also do the Galactic Interstellar Council, and that is the one that is actually the only paid. We ask for $5 a month for a paid subscription, and that's where a lot of the galactic history information is actually found. The lifting information and most of everything else is actually perfectly free to be able to go on and look at, but you have to understand the big picture. So Chris asked me, because he's afraid he'll get off on tangents with these conversations, if I could actually start the conversation. So in general, what we have to say, has anybody seen the movie, is it at 65 million?
65.
Has anyone seen that movie? So there's a movie out now with Adam Driver.
Yeah.
Called 65 Million. Now, it is a fictional movie except for one piece of information that's actually true in it. Human beings that looked like us existed 65 million years ago in other parts of the galaxy, and they were doing exactly what he was doing. They were traversing the universe. They were doing it in the mode that he was traversing, taking people one place to another where he put them to sleep. This is an important concept because people believe that this skin suit that we are in now somehow was only developed a little while ago. This is a very old model, let's say, of a skin suit that beings and souls come in to have expressions. You could go to different worlds and you'll see people that look very much like us, maybe a little different in the eyes or something, just a little bit, but not enough that you would notice. So this skin suit is very old. Now, there are certainly plenty of other races out there that don't quite look like us, right? They look totally different. That all exists too. But the first thing we have to say is that this skin suit has existed for a very long time, okay? So 65 million years ago, that happened. 65 million years ago, like in that movie, there were people that were advanced that were traveling the stars. They didn't all look like human beings. There were colonists and different people from all over the place. Something called, who's ever heard of something called the Galactic Federation? We call it the Galactic Senate, okay? They existed. This is old. We're talking really old stuff. They existed. So they existed out there, There were agreements and worlds, okay, that was happening, but they all existed out there. There was an agreement made, yeah,
Do they exist today?
excuse me?
Does that exist today?
Yeah, and we're gonna cover that.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna cover
Yes,
all of
certainly.
that. Yeah, so they existed, okay? There was an agreement. So when in the movie 65 million years ago, he comes here right before the dinosaurs are extinct. I have to give that part away. But the point was, this part of the galaxy and this system and everything wasn't inhabited like that yet. And so what actually ended up happening is that at that time there was an agreement to terraform. And there was an agreement that not only would they terraform, okay, they were going to do something that's a little bit different than other worlds. They were going to have more than one race on it. So one of the things that is unique about this world right now is the fact that there are multiple colonies that actually came here, established themselves. Untumban are the Asians. There was this whole story about the fact that we existed and we adapted to the environment we were in. No. What happened is colonists, the Dogon, anybody know the Dogon tribes out there, they talk about their ancestrals and coming from the stars. They did. Okay? Multiple colonies. Ancient Mayans came. Anunnaki did come. Okay? Most people know the Anunnaki kind of story. But there were multiple people that were actually here. There were more elemental races that actually came, because when they came, they brought lands, they brought animals. So everyone's talking about the octopi. The octopi, is that really from here? No, it's probably imported. Do you see what I mean? So you have to understand that this kind of all existed. It was a grand experiment then, basically, to see, can we actually do something unique by having multiple cultures come to a planet and exist and learn to get along and have peace and grow that way and intermingle? And what is actually going to happen? At that moment in time, the Galactic Federation was really more benevolent. And I mean was, okay? So that's important to know, people's thoughts of where everybody came from. You know, if you want to look at a galactic, go look in the mirror. Most of everyone, if they could trace their DNA, are going to find out that most of us didn't originate from here. We are connected to colonists that came here. If you can't do it, but that's what would really happen in the very end of it all.
Mhm. Yes, so this is also why people now have different feelings about Earth, whether they can go out in the sun, whether they have to stay inside, whether they are more sun or less shade. This is why so many people have so many different circadian rhythms. Some even have their circadian rhythm of Mars. That was their original planet of origin, or where they adapted to over a long period of time and then had to come here. This is why you have so many different types of people. It's usually a rule in the galaxy. They even showed this in Star Trek. They showed it in multiple shows, sci-fi shows. It's usually one race, one people, maybe a couple of them, but then that's usually how it is. Earth is unique because it was a seed world that had multiple races put on it. Now you have,
And then more came later,
then
and
more came later and added to the
on
genome.
and added
Yeah.
higher to it.
Yes, and this also gave rise after a while to disagreements with the different races. This also gave rise to them being more easily manipulated after a while. This solar system, after a while, had to be barricaded from outside influences. This is where a lot of the Scandinavian mythology comes from, for the most part. And also Sumerian, because you had Enki and Enlil. That is actually, another name for him would be Odin, Balder, and Loki. So, this goes right into the Scandinavian myth. Loki then became Lucifer. So this is where a lot of that comes in. What happened was the asteroid belt that we have in our solar system is actually the remnants of what the Scandinavian myths called the Ragnarok. That was the explosion of Asgard that created our asteroid belt. A lot of people call this Maldek. I came to find out that was a reptilian word. It's actually a slur. It just means it's ours, mine, not yours anymore. It doesn't translate well to English. It's more of a curse word to any of the remaining like Asgardian type people out there. They hate it, so they refer to it by its original name, Asgard. It's actually more of a dimensional state now. If you look where the Vikings actually drew what the 9 realms looked like. It actually was the barricaded solar system and the 9 planets that we had at the time. Whereas first you had Asgard, then you had the 9 planets. A lot of the names for the 9 realms are essentially, they were converted over into the names like we know, Mars, Venus, Jupiter, all of these types of names. Planets actually are more of a portal to a dimensional world space. And that's where Asgard is currently sitting. The planet was only the opening to a dimensional space. And I won't go too far into what's known as the interverse, that's the worlds within worlds, or the nesting down. You have these dimensional spaces where all these beings are existing in. The reason I fast forward to that, it's important to know how this occurred. Back in the times of the end of the Orion Wars, which would be about 500,000 years ago, you had people like Odin, you had Thor, you had the rest of them that were actually manipulated by these Orion beings that were on the outside sides of the solar system, past the Kuiper Belt. The Kuiper Belt was actually the original barrier. That the reason there is that belt, it was the shattered shield that got broken through. That's the remnants of that aged over many centuries. When they influenced the Asgardians to let them in, and they just came in like a wave. And they destroyed practically everything on their path, but not everything died here. We still have Titan beings that exist today. We still have people that live underground. We are also the descendants of a lot of those original colonists. We've been manipulated over the centuries, not only by dimensional sources, but some of the original beings that invaded the system to begin with. And their origin may surprise you. You see, there's a famous picture out there, and people can be upset all they want to know what I'm about to say. This is a very poignant bit of information we found out. There's a famous painting out there, and I cannot remember the artist's name, where you see Archangel Michael over the devil with the sword, like this. That is actually a depiction that somebody brought in through the Akashic information, or what we call the butterfly effect, where all the information is stored in creation somewhere, channeled it. That was one of the original invaders trying to take down one of the original Titan beings that was both on Earth and also on Asgard at the time. That was depicting the end of the last Orion War that took place. That is not anything holy. Those are the invader beings. Those are not the good guys. Any of the winged beings you see, those are Orion creations.
Archangel are not good?
No, think Archangel, Archon. Think that. So, think that. So, and I'm not saying the other side's good either, because the Orions created the system of duality. Worship this, worship not this. And so, this is our enemy, we're your friends. You're really hitting both on the same. So, the reason I bring this up is because this is how they began to manipulate people to give consent to one side while they're demonizing another, which, okay, but they created both sides. And
so even at the point where we say the Dark Orions, they really invaded more than just our area, let's just say. They came in from an area where they were dying. They had basically had domination and control experiences. The one thing that we've been told is that if something becomes the epitome of something, the epitome of what a gambler looks like, the epitome of what a foodaholic, and your soul decides to lifetime after lifetime after lifetime become the epitome of something, there is no need for you anymore. What is there to learn? You've learned everything. So normally how souls and their greater selves are this constant learning and growing, right? That there's this constant thing like that. But in general, the Dark Orions were into domination and control. They were into it so much, that's all they did. They never grew anymore. Where they existed at that time, they were dying and dying off as a natural order, because what we've been told, that when beings decide they are going to become the epitome of something, they will reach a point where There is no more learning. And basically what we call the benevolent source creator, the source creator, will then say, okay, that's enough. That's enough. Come, let me cleanse you clean, go off
That
and do
reality
something
gets
else.
collapsed at this point,
Right,
yeah.
so these things have happened. It's very unusual, to be quite honest, that souls decide that. It's not a normal course of journey, but they did. And they did it in a whole nother area. But they were not going to give up. So they were extremely capable of mental telepathy. Mental telepathy started first, where they were able to convince people to let their guards down, and they came in. They didn't just come in here. They came in everywhere.
Well, multiple realities.
When we say multiple realities, and when we say the Orion Wars, we really do mean wars. Worlds were ended. It was really bad. They also invaded mentally and then physically when they were negotiating into the Galactic Federation, where
This
they
is all-
still are.
Yeah, this is actually an important point. Where the Orions came from may surprise people. This is actually another variation, or as Marvel puts it, variant of ourselves from a parallel universe. And when they ripped across space-time, they didn't want to extinct. You see, you have the multiverse, which I'm not going to go completely into the physics, that would end up boring people and they'd probably fall asleep anyway. But in this, you have what doesn't happen in one place happens in another, and vice versa. You could have 1,000 realities that are very similar to one another with just one variant change or variation of a change. In this case, it was a divergent evolution, and they went down the toilet. They went into transhumanism. They went into going away from source light. They went all the way away from that. And what ended up happening is they didn't want their reality was basic, that their timeline was going away, because their variation of creator was very different. That got virtually deleted. They ripped their way across the multiverse, and voila, we have the Greys. And so, or one version of them. So yeah.
So in general, what basically happened is that the colonists that we were talking about that were here, they were actually being successful. They were actually getting along. They were actually trying to model and show different races being able to get together and do everything that they wanted to do. And that was being successful. And other attempts throughout history. How many people have heard of the Tartarian Empire? That was benevolence trying to create a unity. It's basically been wiped from history, as most people are like, what in the world has happened? But it really is, because history is written by the victors, period, end of statement, right? And so a storyline of the true history of everything isn't out there. What you have is a storyline of what people want you to think is history, but it really isn't history. And most people right this second who are afraid of Armageddon is because they were around during the Orion Wars.
They're remembering
They're
a past
remembering
period.
that.
They're remembering in their soul history a past period. If the Orions are taking advantage of this, and other negative beings are taking advantage of this by making people relive that one moment in time over and over again, what is happening is it's undealt with history in your own soul, pretty much undealt with emotions, undealt with history. Of course, it was traumatic. So what is a dark being that wants to loose that over and over and over again want to do? They're going to pull it out of the file cabinet and present it to you over and over again. Well, you know that's going to happen again, right? That's going to definitely happen again. That's where you get the whole Armageddon. That's where you get the whole fake alien invasion garbage. That's where you get all of this. You got to go through that Armageddon to get to 1,000 years of peace. No, we don't, actually. We can co-create something different. Yeah, we are. Exactly.
When people are channeling archangels, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
This is actually a very good question because of the fact that there could be a good being using that disguise too. I don't subscribe to this. I hate it when benevolent galactics do this, or some benevolent dimensional being does this. I always tell them, show your real face. You're only adding to the problem. Now, are there channelers that channel, say, Archangel Michael, and listen, give some of these generic New Age messages? Yes, and it is a major pet peeve of mine. But I won't get into that. It pisses me off a little bit. But the point is, there are good beings that will take that form because that is what you're used to hearing, too. And when I run across them, I know I don't feel threatened. But then at the same time, I said, will you please just show your true form? I do not want masks. I want to see your actual face. And then if they show their actual face, you know you're dealing with something good. If they say, well, you can't handle it, or they start messing around saying, oh, you're not ready, da 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 da, you're dealing with something negative trying to yank your chain. And so
that's something where we
Yeah.
came up again with basically, when you are reaching out for help, when you feel you need it, what you really should be is extremely specific. You want benevolence for your highest good with no conflicting agenda. Does that make sense? I've said that sometimes and people look at me like, there must be a catch. And I'm like, what words are bad that I'm saying? I'm saying that umbrella term that people use as angels, it's an umbrella term, no different than the umbrella term that people call devils, right, or demons, is an umbrella term. You got mixed bag all underneath that. You do have, demonic entities posing as something like that.
Mhm.
You do have ones that are trying to be benevolent, obviously come in as well if they can. It's a
So
mixed
you
bag.
ask,
You need to be very specific of what
so we
you
get
want.
weird like that.
It's like there is no trick. You, with your intention, have to say what you want. And so if not, then it's rolling the dice on what's going to show up. Does that make sense? You have to there's one of the things that we want to leave here is for your understanding of the personal responsibility you have to grow and to understand these dynamics so you will have better outcomes. You don't want to participate in certain things anymore. You do want to have better outcomes. When you do these things, you end up seeing you do have better outcomes. You're not helpless in anything, but what you don't have is the knowledge of how it's all working.
And and also these beings, when they deceive in this way, I always tell the good ones are adding to the problem when they do this. So I know with humans, some people get to the point where they can't encode and decode a being that they've never seen before correctly. That's fine. I always tell people get the beings, get the person used to how you actually look. Then those people get used to it. But the thing of it is, though, with these different negative beings taking these different forms, it doesn't, and also these other beings, there's a mixed bag. It's not like the whole biblical good and evil angels and demons. You have beings with intentions for your highest good and no conflicting agendas, true benevolence for your no conflicting agendas, and you have ones that are just outright for themselves, for their own agendas. Then you have all this spectrum in between of those that might not like you, but they don't like who is harassing you. So the enemy of my enemy is my friend at that point. So you got the ones in between, selfish, evil, and then you have ones that are benevolent, want our highest good. But also, here's the catch. This goes back to the Galactic Federation crap for a minute. You have these treaties in place, which I find complete BS. I do not agree with them at all. Where you have these different races that are upholding these treaties, by which if one violates it and comes in here and just openly is around us, others will try to come and corral that race. And they don't want to do it, but then they incur the wrath of we call it the GF, the Galactic Federation. They incur their wrath. Now you have, but the thing of it, the catch of it is, groups like the Martian Germans and the Cabal and some of these other groups and factions out there. They go through what's known as the ICC, or Intergalactic Corporate Conglomerate. Those guys have a trade deal with the Galactic Federation. So any disruption you can make down here, like if you spot an alien down here, be loud and vocal about it. Be very, very vocal. If you run into a being, no matter what they're doing, oh, I don't think you're from here. When you do that, I call this, ironically named, the Angels Unaware Rule. I named it after a biblical phrase, just as more of a pun, but still it has a logical use. If you don't recognize a being as an alien, they will, in fact, they'll be able to be around you. If you know they're different than the rest of us, they generally have to walk away. That's why whenever we've spotted somebody from out there, they generally just walk away. They sometimes will telepath with me and say, I don't mean to be rude, but we have to walk away now. I did not understand why they kept doing this. It's contracts and agreements they have through our government. Through basically, they will get in trouble if they revealed themselves. And then aspects of our government and this solar system deal with the Galactic Federation. At least
So-
this is what I figured out so far.
So really quickly to kind of, because we're into a little bit different, more detailed stuff,
Yeah.
just to let you know, did Lemuria and Mu exist? Yes. Did Atlantis exist? Yes. Did all of these things, but what ended up happening with the innervation, right, of what I call the Dark Orions and their influencing on people, the changing of people. Is anyone seeing that today? Okay, is anyone noticing people around them? So the telepathic, events that were happening now are more electronic things that are going on to every person on Earth, because it's coming through your TVs, coming through your radios, coming through your computers, coming through satellites, coming through the towers. Everyone wants to feel that they're special, thinking they're the ones being targeted. In fact, if you walk on this earth, you are receiving all of those beams towards you.
It's just that if you are sticking your head above that, you're the one getting punched in the
If
face.
you hit a certain threshold and a certain frequency, and they can feel a little threatened because they want everybody here, they don't want anybody right there, you may get an extra little punch. But the problem is that people think that it's not, it is every single person. And if you haven't noticed by the people around you, it's also the dials being turned up and turned up and turned up, right? So what you need to understand is that this isn't new. What may be new is the technology. It's not as much telepathy now. Now they actually have that humans now have developed even their own technology to do mass mind control because they want to control the masses. Domination and control is here. You just have to understand the players. So before, when you had these ancient races, Draco did walk the earth, okay? All of these things were real and going on. The wars began, the continents were destroyed. Atlantis split up, and part of it is Antarctica. They're down there right now trying to retrieve artifacts and different things because they want to turn the tech on. They're not going to be able to turn the tech on. That's part of half the wars that have gone on have been to retrieve tech, okay? They're causing distractions to go in. The one question we also get asked is about Agartha. Okay, were there a big group of the Agarthans who lived at one time? At one time. So they also were involved in wars.
We're essentially the descendants of those people.
So
Well,
some
most
people,
of Agartha is right here on the
right here
surface.
on the surface now as well. However, the spaces still exist. Who controls most of those spaces? There are some subgroups of other colonists from areas that do have small pockets. The military has most of it, okay? So they've now gone in and they've taken most of what is going on in that. When people are channeling, the one thing that we also say is you do not know the time frame of what you are talking to. So what it is that everything is happening all at once. I think most people get that concept now, right? So if I'm talking to an Agarthan, you may think you're talking to an Agarthan who lives in the year 2024 instead of 14,000 years ago where they're sitting right now.
And also, it's
So-
important to remember, people's urge, and this slightly diverges, but it goes into what she just said. Back in the times of Atlantis, this is where people's urges to become transhumanistic come from. Because this AI signal that existed, and they were tapping into an energy that existed back in the Orion Wars, the time frame I spoke about before, when the enemy was more powerful. They were getting a signal from across time that was urging them to create their own homegrown versions of AI and become more, let's say, opulent, more egocentric, more narcissistic. And they began to see the world as completely theirs and no one else's, and this is what sparked the Lemurian and Atlantean War to begin with. They felt they had the right to conquer the planet. This is also what ended up creating the Nazi regime as well, because you have it mirrored through time. Even Hitler said himself that the German people descended from Atlantis. He was not wrong. As evil as he was, that was a true statement, because you had the descendants of Odin, the different Scandinavian proto races there that were the remnants of Asgard and other races, elven races, other races, cat races, beings, everybody's there. And forest people and everybody on the other continent, that would be Lemuria. So, you have all of them. This is also where your Tower of Babel story comes from, because all these beings were having their language translated to a central, like, translation tower or spire. When that went down, when the Orions corrupted that with that signal, it divided everybody's languages up again. It wasn't that they were all speaking the same tongue. It's like in Star Trek, it translated all the languages. They split up, and it's also, if you look at the show Grimm too, I've told people this, all the species you see in that, those were supposed to be descendant lineages of all these different factions. And even they got the Orions correct in that show. They showed them looking like Grim Reapers in it, basically using humans as meat puppets because they couldn't interact with people directly. They had that dead to rights in that show, and which I found very interesting. What I wanted to circle back around to was that signal and that fracturing gave rise to aside from V2K tech, that is very prolific now, that is absolutely horrible right now. No questions, like what you were saying, Penny, in your presentation. Absolutely rampant right now. So aside from that, if you're actually getting a genuine being, what time frame are you getting to begin with? Who are you bringing in? For what reason are you bringing in? And what time frame are you communicating with? As everything is happening all at once, Earth is sitting on a nexus point. The Scandinavians called it Midgard, or guarding the middle ground, or dimensional middle ground. There used to be the Bifrost that connected different solar systems and different parts of this solar system with Asgard. That's gone, or it's regenerated from what I understand. And Earth is becoming a new central nexus. That said, you don't know what time frame you're speaking to. Like in Star Trek, they showed people communicating through the communicator, sometimes through time, and they didn't realize they were talking to somebody from a different time frame. Case in point, there was one they were communicating with a woman that they didn't know what time frame they were. They knew what planet she was on. They get to the planet, they just find a skeleton there. It had been 20, 30 years since she had died. And the planet had a weird atmosphere to where it was a temporal fracture type of nexus point, to where it was from quite a while ago. And I thought that was actually interesting. This is the same identical concept. That was a DS9 episode, by the way. I'm not sure of the title, but what was the thing?
No, it was a question. I was just about to use it. Yeah, it's like, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Yeah, I see you're a Trek fan. You look your card there. So yeah. But this, a big Trek fan here, and Trek has gotten this right more times than not. Now, backtracking to the Galactic Federation's deal with the Orions that made it worse. They actually depicted this, a lesser version of that sequence in Star Trek Discovery, believe it or not, where you had a character named Vance and a character named Osira hashing out a contract to have the Orion Emerald Chain integrated into the Federation. That was a real event that was being depicted there. They changed history there. They rewrote it a bit by having the Admiral refuse the Orion's demands. That was wishful thinking. That they changed it slightly, but the original thing was a contract between the two sides. That was a real galactic historical event that was being depicted there, which I saw that went, all right, you got this correct. Reason I also bring all of this up, say if you're a channeler, like what I do, and I have to be extremely anal retentive when I do this, very protective when I do this, because for years, I would just talk to whomever was around. I knew some were bad, of course, I would get rid of them, but I was not paying attention to the temporal frequency that was around them, basically the temporal star date, if you will. Or the alignment, from their perspective, it's the alignment of all these celestial bodies. Some people say astrology, but it's the alignment of where a particular planet, star, moon, anything was in the position at the time that a particular event took place. Galactically or multiversally, how the universes come close together and drift apart. They also depicted that in Discovery, where they said the mirror universe had drifted further apart. That's a truth right there, where you can communicate with one for a little bit and it drifts apart. You can't communicate with it anymore. This is what channelers are running into. V2K being the main boogeyman here. The other side boogeyman is What's the temporal star date of whom you are communicating with? Yes, you could be communicating with Agartha, but what time frame? Since everything is happening at once in our nexus point, whom are you talking to? And also, on the flip side of this conversation, whom do you serve? Meaning, who do you believe you are speaking to, and for what reason are you passing on the communications? This is a biggie right now, because you have to know in here and in here why you are doing what you are doing, when you are doing it, and how are you doing this, and how are you protecting yourself. This is a big thing in the channeling community, because I see, and I'm not casting judgment, but I see people just going willy-nilly, bringing in whatever and whomever. And this is a live wire, as far as I'm concerned. Like the line from Doctor Strange, they needed the warnings before the spells. This is exactly what people need. You need to discern what you're looking at. What time frame is it from? Is it an echo from some ancient time? Is it something from your own circle? Is it multiverse? Is it ghost? Is it just some B2K talking to you? You have to be so discerning right now, more than any other time frame that's existed in history, because it is revved up to such a level that if you get a narrative stuck in your head, they put their hooks in you. So if you have some weird, negative, creepy thing that's going through your head, visuals, story, accompanying music, I've had the whole thing. I had to sit there and go, wait a minute, somebody's just hijacked my brain. I got to backtrack this a little bit. I have to put my stamp on it with a positive ending. And I always say, I always put my name as the executive producer and director of the scene, and then fade it to black like film. If you're going to use camera tricks on me, I'm going to mirror it back at you. That's a biggie that is happening right now as we're speaking. They try to hijack the person's imagination to project a reality that they want. And this goes from not only V2K and AI garbage, but to entities as well. You're dealing with not only computer crap, but you're dealing with beings that can't co-create the same as us. Some of the reptilian, like the Draco, all of them, where they have a limited vision. Humans don't have a limited vision. It's like that line from The Matrix where Morpheus basically told Neo, they will never be as fast or as strong as you. That was a factual statement, because this has been proven to me even in recent times. There are just some beings that I can see them, like a Draco or like a Gray. They are projecting their will onto somebody because they are using their expansive neurons and their expansive energies to project in a wider spectrum of chaos that they want to create here. And of course, the AI is doing the same. It's a hijacking of your creation, co-creation, passion capabilities, your ability to create and recreate your reality. That is a big, big, big thing that's happening right now. And also Dreamtime invasions, big, 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 big thing that's happening right now. So it falls under the same category. I always say if you're encountering something in a dream, or being in a dream, that is trying to hand you an item, get you to eat food, opening a door for you, put your hands up and say, nope. Lucid dream is. If anything is handing an object to you, don't take it. If they want you to eat food, don't eat it. Lucid dream this. Opening a door, you can either you're going into their construct and they're doing the same things I said before, trying to hijack part of you. I call those hack points, where they're creating a dimensional or telepathic hack point, like somebody putting a plug in the back of your head, like you see in the Matrix, trying to get you to see whatever the hell they want you to see.
So the big deal about the dream time, again, part of the protection, is that, again, benevolence isn't coming into your dreams to mess with you. It's just not. Because
you might
they
get
know
communications from spirit, but that's another thing that's being blocked too.
Right, and that's being blocked too. So you need to just understand a kind of a simple fact. Humans have not evolved further enough to be able to control their dream state. We're working on it. Humans are working on it to recognize these things and to act differently. But right now, benevolence really isn't coming there. Malevolence is coming there to mess with you, to do something so that you're going to agree that they're going to mess with you and you're going to have a bad day tomorrow. One of the simple protection things you can do about your dream, you need to do it when you're brushing your teeth or whatever, is that you revoke any agreement you made in dream time. you don't have to remember it. Just revoke whatever you agreed to in dream time. Because whatever was happening, they don't want you to remember what you'd agreed to. They're not going to tell you what you've agreed to, but you're going to have a bad day. Do you understand what I'm saying? Benevolence does not come in to do that to you.
Benevolence doesn't sign contracts.
They
or
do
trade
not do it.
contracts at all.
Malevolence does, and they're not going to be upfront with you with anything. They're going to trick you into consent. So I'm going to move galactic history really forward to bring it forward so we can talk more directly about protection. So as we said, a lot of mental telepathy to take something that was initially proving to be good. Yes, you can have different cultures on a planet. Yes, they can get along. Yes, this is working great. Then you have strong people with strong skills of telepathy to start innervating people's mind. No different than the V2K and what it's doing to people now was happening then. But this was a lot of direct telepathy. Okay? It caused people to have breakdowns. It caused people to have paranoia. It caused people to want to fight. It caused all of these kinds of behaviors. And then all they had to do was watch the pot boil. Okay, because they actually were, and that's the one thing we've been told over and over and over again. Many of these beings who've now recovered because they're old enough to have been there and they saw the light and they've come out of it themselves, as we're trying to do, okay, will tell you simply, they don't even really know what happened. They can't believe they participated. It sounds similar to SSP when you have some of your memories come back. They can't believe they did it, but it happened and it really did. So when you had Atlantis fall, what happened? The residual people of Atlantis who escaped went to Egypt, okay? Ancient Egypt, when some of the things went on, again, a benevolence, a trying to get on, but then they were innervated as well. This was a slow domino effect of domination and control trying to take over, which it did. Okay, you had the Anunnaki. The interesting thing, if you read a lot about the Anunnaki, you think they're the only people who were on Earth at the time. They tell their stories over and over again. You read the stories of the Anunnaki, you're going to see it in the Bible, right? You're going to see it if you look at Greek mythology, you're going to see it there. These people with the egos that can't fit through the doors innervated the same story over and over and over throughout culture, being their gods. A lot of them fell. A lot of them got this mentality of wanting to be a god. You go from Egypt, what happened then? The one thing that this evil has done over time is it just recreates itself. If they're seen, they change like a chameleon and recreate. Now how can we do it? Now how can we do it?
And they make humans self-farm their agendas.
And so Rome showed up. Right? Rome showed up after that. And then what started happening? Everyone hears the story that they feel there's a cabal line, right? People that are running things behind the scenes, right? And there's these cabal, right? Is that real? It is real. Because what happened is that these beings that literally walked the earth, there was going to become a point where we would be able to loose energies and get what we wanted from these earthlings, but they're going to do it with people that look exactly like them, because we are going to prime a group of people in a family line. We're going to tell them that they're better than anybody else, that their genetics are the most pure.
And superior, the master race.
It is
That's
bull crap, but they picked a line. You want to think they picked the line that was most strong? They picked the lines that were most vulnerable to what they wanted them to do. Do you understand? So if you're like, that's a bunch of bullcrap, they ain't picking your line. If you're like, yes, I'm great, I can do this, I'm masterful, they're nothing, I'm everything. You win, I'm picking your line, because I'm going to prune it and prune it and prune it and prune it.
And they've
You're
been
going
doing
to
this
think
for
that
centuries.
you are something special. These cabal lines do exist. What they've been involved in with the negativity that runs through their lines is unbelievable. You know, what they do and how they run their rituals and how they treat their own families or whatever, it is nasty.
As far as I'm concerned, they're not human anymore.
But, so you didn't have the need for the Draco to show their face here all the time. They're underground. They're in a lot of volcanic tubules, because it got to the point where they were able to conduct their business and get everything they wanted, okay? A lot of it is human energy, okay, and different things that they get in certain ways. A lot of it is humans that are trafficked all over God knows where, okay? All of these things that you see right now on the surface that upset us is happening out there as well. So is above, so is below, right? That it's the same thing. So what you have to understand is that it didn't go anywhere. You're learning about it now. Because what the other things with this, we're going to talk about the psionic war, so I want to move this forward so we can get there. The psionics of what they do, messing with you, getting you, because the one thing that humans have a great ability to do more than even other races is called co-creation. Okay? To learn how to manifest, to learn how to get what you want. But guess what has happened over tens of thousands of years? You have learned completely how to co-create for their agenda. You're not co-creating for your highest good anymore. You're co-creating for somebody else's agenda. That agenda still runs. This cabal, okay, that came down and did all of this, made plenty of agreements for technology, and had no problem with the subhumans that they feel existed, stealing them to take them over to the secret space program to be the hard labor and the backs of an enormous thing that's out there right now flying around in the universe. And I don't mean one thing, I mean the infrastructure was off the backs of regular humans. They didn't have all the brains to do it. They had to steal, and they had to do what they needed to do to people.
But also, what also irritates me is some races I run across. At first they're shocked I see them, and then it's like, okay, this isn't my first rodeo. You can't be this shocked. But at the same time, you have some races that go, well, if you catch them abducting or doing something, the first thing they're going to say to you, and it pisses me off every single time, it is the fact that, oh, your ruling body said we could. And I said, no, we didn't sign any contracts with you. We didn't make any agreements with you. Oh, they said you'd say that. And it's like, yeah, that's nice. Get out of my house. That's where I'm at. And I've run across races using ships that look at us like we're zoo exhibits. I was just explaining this to somebody the other night with like light beam type technology where they're riding in this little TARDIS-like thing where it's a dimension and dimension. Orbs are that too, by the way, where people think, there's orbs flying around. Yeah, you're actually being spied on. So this is, I was like, yeah, it's not fascinating, it's creepy, actually. So this is where I'm at with this. I laugh at it, but I'm actually annoyed by it. But this is some of the misconceptions people have. They have this mystical, grandiose perception in this area. This almost like ooh and ah type of thing. And there are these things to actually ooh and ah over. There's wonderful things out there to ooh and ah over. That ain't one of them. So if there's a being presenting itself to you, with something benevolent, come with me, check this out, you're some hero in this galactic war here somewhere, or you were this hero in the past that fought for us and stuff like that. Don't you believe it? Because that is one of the biggest tricks that's actually circulating right now. I know I deviated, but in the psionic war, this is where this comes in.
Yeah, so let me say one last thing, and then we're going to just move forward, because I want to answer the bottom line question. What is it all about right now? Okay, so we're telling you the history. The history is there. You're learning about it. It's not new. What they did to those beings are doing. But now they have humans that are participating who think they are greater than you know what, and we're just nobodies. We're impure. It's going to sound Nazi. It's impure humans who do not have the genetics. The funny thing is they're mutts too. They just don't know it. But, that are this impure cattle that can be used for all of the stuff. And they're the ones, whomever now they feel is running the earth in general, have given the permission for all of this kind of crap to go on and for people to be used and abused. Over the years, the self-farming that has occurred to people, is all about good people will question themselves. Good people are not racist in general. Children don't come in this way. We're not really. Now, are there people born in this world to have an evil type experience? Yes, you are. You're going to learn both sides of the coin. We've all been around a lot. We've had lives where we're really good, and we've had lives where we're really rotten, because you're going to understand it all, and that's a part of another conversation. But in general, if you're coming in to be a decent human being, and this is what you're going to do this time, you will always self-look at yourself. That is kind of the psychological warfare that's used against you, because they can always get you to question, am I not being kind enough to someone who's different from me? Am I not being open enough to whatever they're talking about? A lot of it is complete and utter bullshit, but they know how to distract you from you saying, the emperor has no clothes. This is complete and utter bullshit. I know who I am. I know what I stand for. I know I'm a decent person. This is bullshit. They do it all the time. I call it demonic drive-bys, where something just quickly jumps into somebody, and then you're talking to a friend, then all of a sudden you say something nasty out of nowhere, and then you're like, where did I even get that from? Was that really you? The B2K isn't really you. So what you have to understand right now is you have to undo. You have to undo a lot of things that you've been taught all your life, to start actually seeing it, to decide not to participate in it, and to spend your energies creating what you want. I love to use the examples of little girls, right? I love this example because every woman is going to get exactly what I'm saying. A girl is born in, and she basically is supposed to love everybody else, right? It's supposed to be all love and joy. You're going out to the playground and you see somebody over there that you do not want to play with. You tell your mommy or your daddy, I don't want to play with them. Well, you're here to play with kids. Go play with them. I don't want to play with them. Go play with them. Now, in some cases, it's going to be not only are you going to go, you're going to go over there, I'm going to go over with you, and you're going to apologize to her for having a bad thought. What you had was discernment, that you didn't like the energies and didn't want to be around that. That has been beaten out of every single woman in this world. Okay, that type of discernment. So before we start and we go into this, I am going to do a quick exercise, because you must reawaken, and men as well, your discernment skill. You were born in with it. It's been whipped out of you throughout your life to ignore everything that's going on, because you're a decent person, and you always are going to try to say, am I really a decent person? Well, make a decision. If you think you're a decent person, just go with it. I am a decent person. Don't keep questioning yourself. The other thing we say, you must know who you are to know what you are not, because so much is messing with you. Sometimes, I'm sorry, almost everyone now is hearing voices. They think it's their own voice. It's not. So this stuff is really going on. It's ancient. Humans are now involved doing it, and you must listen. So this is the exercise. It's going to be a quick one. If you can take a second, take a few breaths, because I know we probably overwhelmed people with information right now. And I just take a few breaths. All I want you to do is, if you want to close your eyes, that's fine. I want you to think about something you truly love. Truly love. It could be your pet. It could be a plant, right? It doesn't have to be another human. Something you truly love. And if you can get into that space and really think about it, you are going to feel a bubble coming out of the center of your chest. You will feel a draw to it, like if it was standing in front of you, in front of your chest. You will start to feel that sensation of being pulled towards something, okay? I hope some of you can get what I'm saying. If you didn't get it, I want you to practice this. Something you truly love, meaning it's good for me. Love in that way, okay? So you are drawn and pulled toward things that actually are good for you. Now on the other side, okay, if everybody feels that they get that, and do that exercise so you can get it. What I want you to think is something that is you feel is evil, something that really you feel is bad. Okay? What you're most likely going to get is a sensation right here, if you want to see right here. It's the term, I'm sick to my stomach. you're going to feel it and it's going to push in on you. That energy is going to push in on you. Okay? You were born with the ability to know when something pulls you because it's for your highest good. And it may only be for your highest good at the moment, but it's for your highest good. I use the example, a 2-year-old should get sick to their stomach if they're told to go to a physics class, but an 18-year-old shouldn't. So you see what I'm saying? So what's good for you at the moment, it will pull you or it will push you back. And so if you start doing that honestly, and there is moments where you feel both, and some of it may be this talk, where you're being pulled towards the information to listen to it, but you're feeling sick to your stomach about some of it as well, okay? Because it's not good. So what you have to do is you have to dust off that discernment scale, and then you must do one other thing. You must trust it. This isn't about second guessing. What is good for me at the moment? If I walk downstairs to the bar this evening, and there's not many people there, and I get that sinking feeling, I'm going back. I don't belong there. I'm going back. If I feel comfortable and good, fine, I can sit there and do it. It's going to be the same way, and I hate to say this, when you start to review everything in your life, your family, your friends, your work, what you're doing, and you listen to this, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, what have I allowed in? This happens to every single person because it's about adding chaos to your life and confusion. If you are enveloped in chaos and confusion and they can keep that going, guess what you're not doing? You're not growing. Because the one thing with all of this is the fact that, again, they have convinced you to co-create things you shouldn't be co-creating so that you're not working on the things that you should be working on. Because believe it or not, you get to certain frequencies and all B2K sounds like is the Charlie Brown teacher in the background. Wah, 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 wah. And you know it's there, but you're not even really
And
hearing
half of them
it
do
anymore.
sound like that, by the way, yeah.
But my point being is that these things really do work, okay? Discernment is one of the biggest protection mechanisms you must dig out, you must learn, and you need to honor it. It's not about, the fact that even you could discern something and 6 months later discern it differently and you're okay with it. Do you see my point? It's not about that. You must dust off your discernment skill. Protection skills as well. Again, protecting your energy. People think their energy should be wide out. How far can? No, it's not. Your energy should be close to your body. You're advertising.
Some people, and I've heard this a number of times too. I've gotten texts from people one time. This was quite a few years ago, where somebody said, "Oh, I put my energy field out 20 miles." I was like, "That's nice. When you reel that in, you're going to have a bunch of parasites attached to it." No.
So anyway, so understand that. Protection isn't that hard. It's all about intention. Okay? Now some people like the visualizations. I say, and again, if I tell you bring in your energy field, don't some of you automatically bring it in and you almost feel like I brought it into there? Do you see what I mean? You're not even questioning. You're like, I'm setting my boundary. This is where it's coming. And you're like, I almost can feel it. That's you taking charge of your own energy field.
Grounding is a big deal. You have to reground all the time. Yeah.
I was going to ask about predictive programming, where they make movies about things they're going to do.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that too. So very shortly we'll talk about that. So anyway, so quickly on that. And again, and I say, if you want to see if it works, we're going to talk Walmart. How many people go into Walmart? Then they are drained. They spend 15, 20 minutes there. They are drained. Right? Because probably you were drained, your energies were. What you need to learn to do is you need to put on your protective, like shield, armor. You bring in your energy. Some people, I like to do this because I think it's easy for people to visualize. Think about mirrors all around you and above your head, and then face them the other way. And don't forget to cover your feet. Face them the other way. okay? Now, some people think of that as, pleasant things that can come into my energy field won't be repelled by that, but anything bad, I want to be repelled. You can be repelled by your own self, right? By looking at your own self. The goal is that you do it with intention, and there is no question mark at the end. This is like, and I tell women this in general, and excuse my French, this is when you are the biggest bitch you have ever been, because you better mean it. That's the one thing with intention. This isn't a maybe question mark. I think I'm shielded. Are you? Do you want things in or not? So again, for women in general who have been beaten down in many other ways, this is the other one, because what are aggressive women called, right? But you don't have to share that with anybody, but you mean it, and I mean it, and I said it, and I mean it. You want to know why? Because I said so. So when you send out and you protect yourself, so if you try this exercise and you mean it like I'm trying to tell you, guess where you'll be able to walk into? Right? And you're not going to allow your energies to be drained, but you have to understand that. Ma'am, say your question again, because that was...
What I was asking about predictive programming and the way it seems to be some kind of law that they have to tell us about something.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So all that is true. So again, predictive programming and everything that's coming in through the TVs and everything. If you guys could actually see the energies that are coming through and everything. There was a lecture done here yesterday that, again, if you had children, there was some interesting things to be said about that, because portals we do agree with that, portals do open up the technologies in front of things. But again, in a generalized question, to talk about the fact that when certain presidents and certain people signed certain deals later on, there really was, those things that said you have to disclose. But disclosure is actually being done, and if you're smart enough to figure out and find the disclosure, great, but they're not actually disclosing like you think they're disclosing.
Yeah, no,
they're not required. It's like the fine print that wasn't there.
Yeah, they I don't want to say universally, but they believe they have to tell you in order to make the magic work on you. And the thing of it is, if you notice it ahead of time, you can actually change the course of some of the events they're trying to get happen. Not only do they portray classified information in shows, I've seen a number of them, but the disclosure in the media, the most famous one of all time of the predictive programming is 9/11, because in the Independence Day movie, the first one, where you see Jeff Goldblum's computer that says 9/11/01 on it, and then of course 9/11/01, we all know what happened. Even though some events were changed around it, it was actually considered to be a watershed event that carried us into a different timeline to see what happened next, or like what would awaken some people next. COVID was another one, because in movies, and I even saw this as we were sitting watching the rerun of Doctor Strange on TBS while we were in the hotel room when we were on our way here. In the very beginning, where the Sorcerer Supreme throws him into different dimensions and everything, the first image you see is of the COVID molecule, and that was 2016. So if you look at it, it's very quick. It's like subconscious almost. But I happen to catch the green glowing little molecule. This basically, they're telling you what they're about to do, so when you question it later on, they can beat you over the head, go, we told you and you agreed to it. UMass agreed to all this for things like COVID and like that, events like that. They needed mass consent for that. It's not that they just wanted it. They needed it, and they needed to display it, show you what they were about to do. We told you, you did it anyway, ha.
But more importantly than that is what they're not talking about. Because everyone knows predictive programming and that concept and what it's all about. But what they're not telling you is the strategy of getting you to consent, because you're watching the news and the news is reporting that this is how things are going. It looks like we're going to war in Ukraine. It looks like, we're going to be heading down this road.
That's why they keep saying World War III over and over again.
Reporting, but what they want is for you to think, well, I guess we're going into World War III.
And they want you to agree to it.
They want you to agree with it. They want you to agree with all of this stuff, all of this crazy stuff that is happening. They are telling you and trying to get you to buy into it because they need your co-creative skills to make it happen. They don't have a problem with people talking about predictive programming. That's out there. What I'm just saying is what they don't want you to realize is that it happens every day on the news where they are trying to set a tone that you say, you know, well, I guess it's going to have to be that way. I'll give you some examples of when people thought that and then they decided they weren't going to let it happen. Many years ago, because co-creation is big deal, many years ago, and this was an innocent thing, and I can't remember, they made a movie of it, I remember it from being on TV. And what they basically were saying is there was a soccer team in a different country and these boys are playing soccer. They actually decided, because they had cave systems, they were going to go into the caves. Do you remember this? Those boys went in there. Then all of a sudden, basically, it was like the tsunami, the rainy season was hitting. They got trapped in the caves. Who remembers that scenario? What were they feeding on TV? There's a good chance they're going to drown. There's a good chance this is going to happen, right? How many of you actually at that time said, no, I don't want to see this happen? This was a worldwide event where the collective consciousness of people said, I don't give a crap what you're trying to say. I do not want to see this happen. And guess what magically happened? The rains stopped. Okay? That's how strong the co-creation in the collective. So what's happening, the trickery that's happening right now, is that they are trying to get, well, I guess it's going to go that way. Well, I guess this is going to happen. And they want your agreement to it. This should be the time that if you watch TV, you should be listening and nope, I don't agree. Nope, I don't consent. No, it's not going to go down that way. Because if enough people realize, okay, do you see what I'm saying? The trickery that's being used to get your consent, it will stop. That was one. I'm going to bring up a current event. I've been struggling whether or not to bring it up, but I'm going to bring it up because you guys are going to get it. I'm going to bring up what happened to Donald Trump. Okay? This is an energetic event that just occurred.
No matter if you agree with him, like him,
It doesn't matter. This has nothing to do with that. This has to do with energetics. I started to be disturbed when I saw people on the news and different other outlets start saying things like, I'm afraid he's going to be assassinated. I'm afraid somebody is going to get him.
Then guess
I'm
what?
afraid. And it started. And that type of rhetoric started. I thought that was interesting because I'd never seen that rhetoric be so boldly put out there.
Well, The Simpsons said he was going to die.
Yeah.
Right, that was it.
Exactly.
That would have been
Again, predictive
potentially
programming, but it's
programming.
changed.
But
Yeah.
what happened now? So what happened now is that information, yep, there's a good, were you one of those people that was like, yep, there's a good chance, or yep, I hope he does, or yep, whatever, or were you somebody that basically said, no, I don't want to see this happen? The interesting thing about this energetic event is that you had a lot of energy going both directions. Okay? So what actually occurred? He survived. Someone else was assassinated that day.
There was someone else that died that day
Does
instead.
everyone know that a person died that day? It wasn't him. There was enough energy of the collective consciousness around that didn't want it to see him, but there was also a competing energy around that was demanding an assassination.
That was so therefore it
Did you
flipped
guys
away
get
from him
that?
to someone else. Yeah.
That's how the energies work. When you do some of these things, there are certain types of things with the energies that occur that are like watershed moments. The energy has built so much around it that something has to happen to release the energy. So what happened here, unfortunately, is that an assassination did occur. Don't think otherwise, but it wasn't him.
Mm-hmm.
And
also,
what did it do? So some people are like, you have people, and it's disturbing. People getting on there saying, damn, they didn't kill. What kind of thought process is that? But what it actually did is it made people reflect on this concept And more people are now unified with the fact that they actually don't want this kind of stuff going on.
Doesn't matter who it is, you don't want it to occur.
Do you guys understand that dynamic? So much strong energy coming, it's such opposing forces. It both occurred. It both occurred.
When you say someone died, you're talking about the shooter, right?
Nope.
No.
No,
I'm
those are
talking,
those
he
guys.
shot and killed someone.
No, there's a theory on it.
And that's an interesting
No,
thing.
no.
Don't you guys find it funny that they don't talk about the person who was killed?
Yeah.
The fireman?
No,
Or the
a,
assassin? The guy that got killed, the fireman?
a person in the audience
Yeah,
was
it's
killed.
the fireman.
Yeah, he was
That's his last
killed.
name. His
Right?
last name is-
I've been saying that for days. I'm like, nobody's recognizing the one who was assassinated. I find that interesting. Because they want to
It's like
keep
their
this other
brain doesn't
drama. They want this
register.
other drama to keep going, which it is a theater, which everything. What the point of some of these conversations in the protection, what we say protection, sure, but you must be aware of what's going on. You must be aware of how your co-creative skills are being used against you. Number one way that they can get you to do what you want is fear. I'm sorry, I'm gonna bring it up. What happened with this medical emergency thing that happened a few years ago, okay? I'm from that field. I'm from the area of communicable diseases and everything. I was appalled at what I saw happening and how it was taken over and how people were not given informed consent. You were not given the information that you deserve to have before making a decision. This was a worldwide event, because the last thing I'm going to get to as far as what's going on right now and why is it going on is because everything must break down, because the interest of those people who feel that they are running things right now is they want to rejoin and get involved in the Galactic Federation out there. And you have to have a one world government right now
To do
in their
it.
bylaws to do it.
And it's impossible here. There's too many different cultures, too
And
many different opposing
This is,
ideals.
as we said, why? That's how it all is out there. So if you want to know why people are crossing the border and the border was opened, they're trying to blur the borders. You have Canadian counties right next to us who now want to secede from Canada because they can't stand it. That'll be interesting because they want to dissolve the borders. The European Union was formed to dissolve the borders. You say it's to make it easier, but now they're really under one monies, they're under one thing. They're dissolving these things. They have an agenda that they are running. They do not respect the individual cultures.
What was your question?
I may have missed that you said that the Galactic Federation only allows a planet to join if there's a one world government?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, one leader to be
Right.
on the Senate,
So
essentially,
I
yeah.
thought the Galactic Federation was good. What just happened?
Well,
They
there
were.
was.
They were
They were.
before negativity came into this
And
area
infiltrated,
and
yeah.
infiltrated it. They were many years ago when they first formed this Earth, long time ago, 65 million years ago. Were they good at that point? Yes, it was a planned joint venture to come here with multiple colonies to see could they get everybody along and get along. Could they form a unity?
Then in the Orion Wars, they got infiltrated. Now you have some
So
really
now there's a
creepy-
different
yeah.
agenda going on, just like I said with the humans now and the self-farming that is going on, that are trying to dictate, because they want to join, they want to get out and trade. Trade's already going on, guys. They want all of this stuff out there, but they have to be able to join as a part of the charter that exists as this. And so, because that's how all the other worlds work.
Yeah, and
So they
also the
don't,
way
then
they-
some people are like, who cares? Because look at all the things we'll get. All of the things we already exist. All of the cures to everything exists. It's not being given to these surface dwellers. Okay? So if you think all of a sudden the Galactic Federation is taking over to make sure that everything is fair on this planet, that ain't what's going to go on.
Yeah, what the thing is, what we need to do is form our own. Form our own in this system, our own federation. Then, if you want to trade with the Galactic Federation, that's our choice to do
So
that.
the
Yeah.
bottom line between that is I need you to see clearly the history, our galactic history. They've not gone anywhere. There's been wars. Some may have been wiped out because of that. The same tactics were used for the infiltration. The same tactics are being used now. The difference is now humans are participating in this because they see themselves as superior than regular people.
What do you mean by we have to form our own federation? Like with who? You mean on Earth here?
On Earth, yeah, what we do, but even if it's just a basic agree to disagree with each other, even if we don't like each other's cultures, you know, the Galactic Federation just wants to blend everybody together. That's different than basically us coming to a mutual agreement and respect for one
A unity.
another. Very
Back to
different.
the-
That's unity.
Back
on
to
one
a
side.
unity of respect of cultures.
Yeah.
But to answer your question on a bigger picture, there are plenty of different races out there that don't agree with the Galactic Federation and would be
And would be
happy
glad
to
to
join
work
with
with us,
another
so.
type of federation. The interesting thing right now is, again, everyone has to realize to not participate in it and to say no and to use your, to use your free wills. You must understand the big picture to see all the craziness that's going on.
And-
It is intentional.
And also, I want to point out before I answer a question, that the Cabal and Martian Germans, these other groups, are trying to get us to basically almost like if you're saying applying for insurance or a credit card or something, there's like a minimal like standard that is an acceptable line where they'll allow you a line of credit or something like that. They're trying to get it just to a certain line. Then these guys come in and fix the rest of it. You do not want that. You would lose rights doing this, big time. And what happens at that point is it's not. That's a point of no return at that point. You don't want to hit that line. You want to hit the unity line, not a forced one ring to rule them all type of situation.
So, yes, a system of duality was formed.
Oh,
We
yeah,
mentioned that,
you're-
one second, we mentioned that a long time ago. The point of us, we have circled the toilet and been flushed down the toilet. We went that way first. When humans and us came in, when the Anunnaki tinkered with us, when all of these things happened, it wasn't a joyride at that time. And humans came in to fall first. What's happening now is we're at a moment where people can decide, what do I want to experience now? We are co-creators. We co-create our experiences. What do you want? If you want to learn to unify, that would be a new experience for a lot of people because it always went down the toilet. The goal now is to have the other experience of the flip side of the coin, right? To understand what it is to grow in unity, into respect in different races, different cultures, and that then that jointness, again, will be something different as it was meant to be when it first started, long time ago, and then present itself out.
We would breathe new life back into
into the
that.
whole into everywhere.
Oh yeah, you had a question for a second.
I
Yeah.
thought one of the other speakers said that there was something other than the Galactic Federation, another option. I thought.
Oh yeah, there are different organizations out there. Like on Earth, you also have different factions that are different. Other than that, we would unfortunately be speaking German and have implants in our neck if there weren't other factions out there right now. Because the Martian Germans, they got help from an alien faction that got partially subdued back in the day. That's where the Vril came in, and they channeled a lot of the information from Aldebaran and all that other information. I won't go completely into that. But there are other organizations out there in the galaxy that would be more applicable to work with us.
Right.
So yes.
Right.
What was your question?
At some points, do you want to say more about the Germans, the Nazis?
Oh yeah, this. I'll be quick about this. This is an elaborate history right here. What ended up happening is this also ties back into Atlantis, like what we said before, where you have the Vril Society that actually channeled. This is where some of the lore comes in, where Maria Orsic and the Vril channeled information to give to Hitler and the Nazis about like the Bellcraft, about anti-gravitic technologies, all of these things. You know, the Foo Fighter balls, all those the orbs like I was talking about before. They got this. The whole legend says they got it from reptilians in Aldebaran. These were actually more reptilian Nordic types that people call Pleiadian all the time. It is that there's these blonde-haired, blue-eyed reptilians, and you see right in the corner of their eye. This is where the scales are, right here, in the edges of the eyes. You can barely see them. They look almost photoshopped, people. These are the bad guys. These are mainly, this part out there. The mic went out.
Are they gonna fall?
Oh, okay, I'll just be a little louder.
Yeah, come forward tonight.
I'll just get closer here. What ended up happening was Hitler wanted to of course dominate. That's exactly like Atlantis did. They were like a photocopy of what Atlantis did was trying in the final years. And also on Atlantis, they had people that looked psionically and technologically out there through the Orion Wars. What Hitler did is he looked back like they looked back, and he got the same information, and the same beings came in to assist or assist him. These are people that had, the Nazis were people that had a similar, if not the same mentality as some of these Orion beings. And they meshed well. It was an unholy alliance at that point. They came in, Hitler saw these blonde-haired, blue-eyed people and went, oh, this must be the master race. This must be what we are supposed to look like. This must be how the world is supposed to look like. Not all these other varying energies, people, shapes, sizes, colors, us. This is, then this started Hitler's war machine. He also had other aliens coming in from solar systems like Cassiopeia, Pleiades, Aldebaran. These were races, other races. Oh, got it? Thank you. Thank you. These were races that also shared that ideal. Case in point, there is, I cannot, my German is very bad, I cannot remember the name of this base, but this is where it was a munitions facility that was in the shape of a W. They always call it the zigzag base as a nickname. I saw this on What on Earth, the program called What on Earth. They said, oh, this is a zigzag base. Well, if you look closely at it, it is depicting the constellations of Cassiopeia. They were putting out there, oh, we need assistance here, dump weapons here, dump technology here, we need your help. Like the people in ancient times would always call the aliens by putting marks on mountainsides like the Nazca Lines, all those other things. They followed that same pattern. That's why they were searching for all that ancient information. That's why they had a paranormal division, to be able to peer into other dimensions, other areas, communicate with other beings.
Is that Weisenbaden? Is that Weisenbaden?
Yeah, I believe that's the name of it. I told you my German's a little bad, but this.
I think it's pronounced Wiesbaden.
Yeah, it's in the shape of a W, but it matches the shape of the Cassiopeian constellation. And at the lower part of it is where the main munitions were being created to eventually create Hitler's war machine. So that is where one of the species that assisted the Nazi regime is from. Another one's Aldebaran in Taurus, and then you have a couple others that also assisted. But then you had other races that went, wait a minute, you're breaking treaties by doing this. We're going to assist the United States and Great Britain to balance the scales. So you had some advancements there. Sad thing is, though, people think the Nazis lost the Second World War as a result. They did not. They went to Antarctica, Argentina, the Moon, Mars, and Ceres, and that's why I was referring.
Admiral Byrd got his butt kicked when he went down to Antarctica.
Yes, and they did not. And I will cite another program. This is also predictive, goes into the predictive programming, but this is also depicting history as well. There was an old episode of the old MacGyver TV series. I don't know if anybody's seen this. Whereas there was this Jewish man that comes to MacGyver and says, I need help. I believe the Nazis are still trying something. I need your assistance. By the end of the episode, they find a German lady who's a watcher for a neighborhood that basically said, oh, yeah, Hitler moved too quickly. We learned to move slower and have patience and infiltrate all levels of your government, neighborhoods, everything. And that was 110% true, what they depicted in that. They arrest the lady in the end. They said, you can take me out, but I'm just going to be replaced with another one. And you can't fight us all. And in the end, you see this pegboard with all these little red push pins in it that were thousands of them of where all their agents were posted. And that was 100% true, what they depicted.
So right now, again, fear is something that's really big out there, being able to psychologically do psychological warfare on humanity, to put them in fear. Because one of the other creations, and I hate to say this creation that's really out there right now that is false, you shouldn't pay attention to it, you must be self-responsible to learn how to co-create right, is the fact that a savior of some kind is coming in. Savior will not save us. They want you to believe that because they'll keep delaying the Savior so you won't work on yourself. So you will still participate in all of the things that are going on, still give consent unknowingly, right? Still do all of these things instead of work on yourself spiritually so you raise your frequency enough so that you are not susceptible to this. Do you understand what I'm saying? So this is personal responsibility of your growth. Now, it's hard. What we say isn't easy information to grasp for a lot of people hearing it for the first time. It's very hard because it's a lot of work. Okay? Yeah, go ahead.
Is that the, like, Armageddon and 3 days of darkness?
So
All that?
what again, more benefits someone else, okay? No matter how it comes, no matter if it comes through religion. How many wars were started over some sort of religious ideology? Religion is a great place to get people to butt heads and to start creating wars, okay? So anyway, so you have to understand that they will utilize what's in your mind and create a story with it to still get what they want. As we said before, Armageddon, okay, and all that happened. But people are focusing on it now because some people had lives that way back when, and they were a part of it, and they're afraid of it, as they should be. But what will evil do? They'll take your thought, they'll spin it in your mind. If you want 3 days of darkness, no problem. We'll give you 3 days of darkness. We'll add that to the story. We can create it. Do you understand what I'm saying? They'll give you the story that you want. At times, humanity has, what is going on? I don't want this anymore. And full mass or whatever. You know what they have to do off at that time? They have to ease off. They have to ease off on humanity a little bit, give them a little bit of something to recreate themselves, to then turn the boiling pan up a little bit more, like the frog in the pan. So, thank you. So they will at times, again, give people the co-creations that they want. They'll work with whatever. Just like we say with the New Schwabenlanders and the Nazis and whatever, they're going to co-create for them. You're the greatest thing since sliced bread. You are better than them. You come from this, that. They don't care what they say. They're doing it to make, they don't have a problem making you feel like they do it to military factions. You know everything. Oh, you know, I'm sorry, I'm used to walking a room. That you know, they don't have a problem telling you that you're the greatest thing since sliced bread. They love people in ego. They're easier to manipulate. Do you guys understand that? You know, so there is a good thing about being confident in yourself, but you know what I mean by people who are in ego so badly, because they're easy to manipulate. Okay? So you've got a lot of that going on. What you have to understand about all this, the key takeaways, is that do not be in fear. Okay? Fear is, when you notice yourself, you need to really check it. Why am I in fear? Well, because the story they're telling me. Well, don't agree with the story. Say no. Don't walk around, which they want now since COVID, is everyone to be in their home. They do not want you talking together. They want you watching TV to that narrative, because if you went out and talked to people, guess what you would find? There would be many more people who think exactly like you do and not what you're seeing on TV. So if they can keep people separated right now, if they can throw psionics at them to lower their abilities to think, if everybody who is hearing things in their head, which is probably everyone in this room, if they can get you to think you're crazy, we don't do psionics. You must be schizoid. Do you see what I mean? No one's talking about all of these things because it's the way they control. And so, you know, again, we call the governments are theaters of puppets. They're not even, you know, everyone kind of knows that by now. But, you know, you want to have a free and fair election? You want to know how to steal it? You put these crazy laws in place that you don't have to show ID. That's number one. Then you say, you know, basically that you watch nothing but the TV channels and you're going to believe whatever the election results are, because you're going to think all these other people around you that you're not talking to anymore actually are who you didn't want to vote for. Because if they can separate you and keep you from talking, they can control the narrative and they'll make you believe it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and also the way they assist in making you believe it is I know some of the guides and forest people and them that I speak to, they say this is more of a derogatory term, but we nicknamed it the dumbing. You know, basically making fun of the movie The Happening where all the trees are killing people. This is making everybody's survival instinct disappear. This is kind of something similar where you're having a dampening taking place where it makes people more access their reptilian brain at that point and not co-create differently or think a problem through or, elevate themselves in any way, shape, or form. Think of it as the allegorical rendering of the psionic dampening or the dumbing would be Homer Simpson, where you see in The Simpsons where they inform people about what's going on. You saw that with Trump on the escalator, him following Trump down the escalator in that. What that symbolized was not only basically COVID where it began to dumb some people down, but you had a dumbing taking place just after Trump. That's what that was trying to say, that it was going to get worse. They were saying that in that scene. Also, there was another scene that was not too long ago. It was a Halloween episode where everybody started to turn into Homer. That was another allegory of everybody becoming stupid, or people that are judging the rest of you as lesser, so therefore they're just going to dumb you down. This is essentially what that was saying. I even saw this in a SpongeBob cartoon, for crying out loud. One time when we were flipping channels, I happened to, that my intuition was seeing on the, there were two Nickelodeon channels where we had a kid over and we were watching this, and I was like, okay, I'll flip to one of these. My intuition said, go to the second channel. And they both had SpongeBob on it. Like, okay, I'm gonna hit channel. My intuition was screaming at me. Click the channel. I did it. When I did this, the entire episode it started out with the bad guy that was in it, Plankton, mixing up a chemical mixture that made everybody stupid. Took Patrick Starr's DNA, copied it onto everybody else, made everybody dumb. Then the thing of it is, he spills it on himself, it vaporizes, goes into a cloud, and rains down on everyone, and makes everybody idiots. So this is, I saw this, I went, you have to be kidding me. So, and that was right in a kid's show where, again, they were telling them early what they were doing to them. And the reason I say the number 2 channel, when they were both on there, not only was I picking up on where that was going to be, but that's the second delivery system for the dumbing, is chemical intrusions, all of the chem clouds, all this. The first one is psionic dampening, that is energy, frequency, scalar, and microwave. So the MV2K, that's the first one. Did you have a question?
Well, you talked before about the Nazca lines.
Yes.
Typically, what were they for? What are the Nazca lines for?
In my opinion, there was some of them, they were slightly different from what I can observe. Some were to mark water sites, other ones were to basically ask help from the stars for resources, things of that nature. That's basically what I've been able to interpret from that.
So I'm going to move on real quick, 'cause I don't know, does anyone have the time? I don't have the time.
6.
Okay.
Oh, we got a little bit.
Okay, we have a little bit of time. We're trying to cover so much information, that's so important. But one of the things, again, that we talk about, because you hear all of this, is what can we do about it now? In truth, persons like ourselves, we've been asked this a long time ago, and we started, if you've seen our table, we're across, the 2 tables across. One of the things that we were asked is how do we protect ourselves from some of these waves going in? What's really important, and again, the dial's keeping turned up, there is a chance that you really do need to have a little of assistance now by products or whatever that will help create more of a sanctuary space, be it your bedroom, be it your home, what you can do about that so that you have a place to be where you can grow. Do you see what I mean? Everything's being done now to cause chaos, to not even allow you a second of time to do it, to grow, okay? To always, even to the point that people that believe, and there are so many gifted people here, that they're always running to someone to take off the attachment because they don't have the time to learn how to do it themselves. Which the goals on all this is we have the capabilities to learn these things ourselves. No one is really exempt from that. But it's about the time to be able to do it and to sit and to center. To learn how, the one thing the forest people, the Sasquatch, the forest people say that one of the big things that everyone right now needs to learn is to get to the calm space I call it neutral. When you think of the wide swing of emotions, can you get to that space where you're in neutral enough and calm, and you can get used to
Where they can't
being
spin
there,
you up, yeah.
where they're not affecting you, and you almost then become an observer in your own life. You're observing everything. You're not feeling the need to interact with it. If you have to practice getting there, and in the chaos of life, if you can start learning to shift yourself into that calm space, it now does not control you. You have the mechanism. Everybody can probably sit here now and get themselves kind of grounded and calm. That's where I'm talking about it. When you're in a grounded, now I know a lot of people have a lot of thoughts run through my mind, but when you are grounded and you're in that space, there's really not a whole lot of stuff going on in your head that usually may have been going on 5 minutes ago. It really is taking the moment. What I say sometimes, if you're having a hard time doing it, do simple things. Who realizes that a lot of weeds that are growing around them in their yards have pretty little flowers on them? Okay? What you must do, how many people realize that if they go outside under a tree and just put their hand on it, that energetic response will calm you? Okay? So the key to some of this right now is learning how to not let the world affect you in that way.
And also, if you do the appropriate inner work, getting rid of what doesn't serve, getting rid
Right.
of what they can latch onto, and also knowing when there's oppression that is beyond that inner work point where it's actually just targeting at that point, then you have to have appropriate devices, appropriate symbolism, appropriate protections up in order to create that shield. That's why we created what we created.
High frequency energy. You know what one of the highest frequency energy is? Genuine laughter. How many people turn on a funny show at night? How many people have stopped turning on funny shows at night? No, everyone's serious now, right?
It's not much funny
There's
on
not much
TV.
money.
Right. So, you know, you open and look at the funny cat and puppy videos, you know, you can do that. So you must expose yourself, and a lot of people have forgotten what the frequency of joy feels like. They cannot put themselves there because they cannot remember what that frequency feels like. If you are in that boat, I suggest you go to a rock store, and you go for yellow stones. Yellow is the frequency of that. So when you get those stones, the way you work with stones is you may be attracted, like I tell people coming up with dream catchers, you're attracted to the one you need. Okay? I think people have found that out, you know, coming over there. It's the stones, okay? You go to the stone store. You may not know a thing, but you may actually say, I really like this one, or I really like that one. Fine, get it. Look up the spiritual meaning. You probably have forgotten the frequency of whatever that is. Yellow, especially joy, okay? And so what it is that the stones are there if you sit with them in that calm state, in that neutral place for a little bit. And you just, you know, say, you know, remind me joy, then what's going to happen in your head? Guess what? You're going to think of kittens. You're going to think of puppies. You're going to think of the things that now help you remember what it's like to be in joy.
Also, the other thing that helps protect you is you must remain in your sovereign space. You must declare your space yours at all times. No foreign signals, no foreign, any of that negativity is allowed in your space. Consider it a temple space. I've had to reassert that over the years multiple times, from alien sources to ghouls to goblins, the whole spectrum that you can think of. Foreign energies, I batten down the hatches pretty tight in our house. For a while I overdid it, you know, where I was the guy that had tinfoil on the walls, the whole bit. I was that person for a little while. I found a way to balance this out, creating the devices we created that basically jam the signals coming into your house, creating sigils that get rid of negative entities, finding substances, say like, or stones like selenite that disentangle cords, All of these things, I've combined all these things into one set of protection. This is why we promote what we promote.
Right, and we were asked to. So the key of it is that everything that we've been talking about, I hope you get that we've also talked about the solutions. And this is personal now responsibility. Some of this is not hard. I guarantee you, if you mean it and you shield yourself, you're going to be able to go into Walmart. I guarantee you, and you're going to be able to come out, and you're going to feel a lot better than the last time when you didn't do it.
Not that you actually want to go there. It's
But,
just more.
but I'm just saying, but my point about that is that when we've been doing this since 2017, if you do go to the site, you do start listening to things. Some of the older stuff we're redoing, just to put a fresh face on it. When we first started, you'd only hear our voice. We never spoke about anything without a solution that you couldn't try, and it was the people that tried that realized there was something to it that kept them coming to us. Now, because we are about, getting everybody to do what they need to do, understanding the big picture of what is going on is 50% of it, okay? Half of it is the knowledge deficit that is under people right now and has been that way since humanity existed.
And 25% after that is acting on it. Making the change for yourself, making a change for any situation that you feel is unjust. And the remaining 25% is bringing resolution to the situation and making it firm and stick.
And we're complete optimists. We do believe that humanity is in the midst of learning, that they're in the 50% stage right now, trying to figure out what is going on, collecting that information. We try to provide you with the skills and some different things to try that you will prove to yourself there is something to what we're saying, so that then you can co-create what you do want to occur, right? Instead of co-creating for somebody else's agenda. It is not easy work. It sounds simple, but when you realize some of even the relationships, the friendships that are not good for you, when you dig out that discernment and you really look hard at it, most people have to make some changes in their lives. You need to let it go in peace. You are not to proselytize to someone else to tell them they need to be where you are. Everyone has a right in their life to grow and learn at their own pace. There will not be an instant poof moment where everybody's the same. It's not going to happen. That's not the way it works. They want you to believe that because they want you to keep waiting for that moment. Okay? It will not happen. Everyone has the right to grow and learn. You have different cultures and different phases of learning. Look at the Middle East. They're like Middle Ages, don't you think? They're not going to instantly poof into anything, and they're not going to disappear. What you have to understand is that you create the experience that you want, and you are dealing with multicultures on this planet. We are not meant to grow up to turn into looking like bald aliens, right? Because that's the genetic blueprint of one kind of race where everything has now gone away. All of the spice of life, all of the spice of cultures, right? They want that to occur. They want to erase even current history in the last 100, 200 years to get the next generations to forget about it so they can now dictate a history. The other thing I have to tell you to be aware of, okay, and this is a sad but true fact, is that they are in the midst of bringing forth an agenda that they have created that will provide a story and a history of space. The ones that are in charge are going to want to stay in charge.
They want to keep this, to put it simply, is they want to denote or promote secret space program light, minusing all the atrocities that they committed against people over the years in the secret space program.
So
don't let them do that. Do not let them do that.
You have to understand, the victors write the history, the victors try to promote the next agenda. So what I'm saying is that you must discern. I'm one of those people, listen to everything. And then what calls you to listen to more, okay, listen to more. Drop what no longer serves you. But don't think there is going to be honest and open historical information given to you about what's out there, or about the agenda moving forward. They're
Also,
gonna
it's
do a
just
story.
with the moon base, for instance. They're saying, well, we're gonna build a base on the moon. Already did it. You have to basically see whatever they're talking about, they've already done it. So it's, that's basically where it's at.
So this is where you decide, am I gonna go along with that or am I not? But the last thing, because we really do want to open it, we'll be here tomorrow. If anyone has any questions, wants to talk with anything. Chris does do sessions. A lot of people do need some help and get themselves cleaned up. He certainly does that. We put our cards back there. There is a ton of information just for free. We really, because of the toes that we step on, trying to bring out some of this other information that isn't heard, the big picture. We've done that under subscription. We were told that that would be a safer place to do it right now, because if you try to put it way out there, we've already been canceled. We've already been canceled on Vimeo. We were trying to put together a page. We've already been canceled years ago with the statement back from the companies that this is the quote, "We do not like anything that you do."
That's literally what they said.
That is what we were told, and we were kicked off, and it was nasty what they did. And trying to get our information back from them, a lawyer had to get involved.
Yeah, we had to get a lawyer to get involved
It
with
was
that.
ugly. There are good people trying to get their word out that you never heard of that have already been canceled. They're already looking for the people to try and shut them down. So please look at the website. Again, a lot of free information out there. We're really big, but we do not talk about things without a solution behind it. We are not here to scare people. We're here to inform you and to empower you and to make you understand that you are so much more, okay, than you ever can imagine. But you've not been instructed, and you're not going to be told. You're going to be stepped on if you do not stand up. You're your own safer you've been waiting for.
Yes, exactly. And the sites you can find our material on is thelifting.net and galacticinterstellarcouncil.com. Those two sites. Yeah.
So if you haven't bought a raffle ticket, I encourage you to, because you may win a reading with this guy. No, really. He's amazing. I've been working with him for years. He's helped me tremendously. And I'm not saying that just because he's my community. He really is the real deal.
Nick, did you?
Yeah. You know, there was actually an episode of Star Trek, the animated series, where Kirk and Spock actually meet Lucifer. It turns out he's an interdimensional plus an extraterrestrial being. He just visited Earth in the past, and of course, turns out he actually wasn't benevolent at all, as Christian Anchor claimed him to be. But however, like there was a talk yesterday when the speaker said that Baphomet, Lucifer, Loki, where you want to call it, was behind the Montauk Project, and he also mentioned that Loki, Lucifer, or whatever was actually a Draco reptilian. Would you agree with that, or was Lucifer some other alien species?
He would be more. Yeah, I suppose you could say he took that form, but Loki was basically the god of mischief. So originally he looked kind of like a Viking, sort of. And with more of a Middle Eastern look to him. And he basically was the inventor of religion and all this other stuff. So yes, that is actually true. In this though, the reason they made Lucifer look good, this is basically satanic Hollywood basically telling you to worship their god. That's essentially it right there. I know we're out of time, folks, so thank you. Thank you for listening.
One quick question. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Okay, so you
Sorry.
had said Admiral Byrd got his ass kicked.
Yeah.
Now, so the interview that he did
Yeah.
in 1960 or 50, whatever, so that was fake?
So let
Because
me
he
tell you
said that
something.
he...
And I know this happened to a lot of people. If you were told everyone you love would be killed and they meant it, what would you do?
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
It really is like that. It really was like that. There were people that saw things in World War II, the men that came back and became alcoholics and had all these problems. They may have been involved in stuff, but basically they were told every person they loved would be killed.
Yeah.
And they meant it, and they did it. This is no joke. So I'm sorry to say that this happened to fine military people as well as others, that they were, threatened literally to participate in these storylines.
Okay, I think this is a good place to take that. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, so yeah, you're right. So yeah, so basically you agree that the Draco, that Satan was really just a Draco species, alien species.
Essentially, but we'll like in the middle.
But in the end, you're still drinking. Oh! Yeah, just a question. Do you actually remember that episode? Did you see it?
Yeah, a long time ago. I saw the documentary.
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah, thank you for your help.
Great, well, yeah, I just want to get about you.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that lecture. It was actually very, very interesting. Again, sorry for the camera angle. Brian Singh's version for the 2024 Now Disclosure Now conference. They're on their website, on their full disclosure website. I will put the links below. The exact URL is being wiped from my brain. The link will be in the description, I promise you. So you will get to see the lecture from the proper camera angle there. So while we have been here at the Serata, you know, I was out snorkeling. We even got shells that were like this out in the water. And I got a couple of these and a piece of coral also. I don't see that readily accessible, but yeah, I will add a picture or something in there. But we came across a family of dragons on this property, and you know how we've been kind of iffy about dragons for a while now, ever since the whole Lentazar incident 6-7 years ago. And you know, I have been very cautious of them because some of them are susceptible. And I know there was a synchronicity. If you watch Sean Bond's presentation, who did an absolute wonderful job too, he talked about a dragon that there was a picture in his presentation. If you go to the full disclosure site there for this conference, you're going to eventually see his as well. And in that, he talked about a dragon that he made contact with, that he circled the picture and everything. This I thought was very interesting because this was a synchronicity. He said they're trying to hide. There's not many of them left. They get wounded. They get taken over. They get triggered. They, and we said that we saw some with AI, like that one we called Plutus that was in Granville. We saw this. Yeah, they can become corrupted. This is why also on the Galactic Interstellar Council Infinitum episode about the susceptibility of dragons, that's why I refused to channel them, because I was spooked at the time. If you go to galacticinterstellarcouncil.com, you can see that on one of the Infinitum episodes from when we vacationed before we had complete, autonomy with the GIC branding. So, our control of that. So, with this, there is a dragon family on this property as I'm coming out of the ocean. Of course, there were some weird attachments on me, and before we went in, when we were speaking to Miles Johnson, I found some of those lizard attachments. He also said it before I did. He's had experience in this area. So they attack the heart, they cause heart attacks, brain fog, cutting off of circulation. Everything I found on. But I found some in the ocean and some purple octopi-looking things that looked kind of creepy, like they were cartoonish, like how a bioluminescent type of life form would in a different frequency. Some people see cartoonish. That's usually AI screwing with you, or causing a decoding, encoding error, or translation error. This was a legitimate attachment. But as I was pulling those lizards off me, I saw a bit out of a tree stump. I saw this dragon come out and pull him. He thanked me for the gifts, just like one that's at our house. Oh, I can mention him, Isaac. His name's Burgess. That's not his real name, so that's why I can use that. They use pseudonyms so that the bad guys don't find him. And he goes, "Thank you. These are tasty," And I said, and that's a big difference between feeding energy orbs to like feral elementals, which I equate to the owls on Futurama by the dumpsters. They look like they have a human face, and you feed them enough, and you have 10,000 of them show up like ducks with feed. And also some that have dragon-like appearances too, and people are feeding them energy and stuff like that, and they'll pop up all the time. Different. They might have a relation to some elementals and dragons, but they're not the same thing. I just want to point that out, because we had a friend that came across those that had several around, didn't know why, and she was feeding them little energy bits from crystals and things of that nature. No. This is different. And he described this, like any bird would hang around a parking lot looking for scraps, like seagulls think parking lots are harbors, like seagulls are hanging out here. He goes, he's just like one of them. And I know birds also come from lizards, Isaac. I know dinosaurs turned into birds and chickens and all that. Yeah, I get it. I know chicken is a bird. Shut up. But anyway, he described it like that. Wouldn't you, if you had an unending food source, like pigeons? you know, they were domesticated at one point. They hang around humans because they've had generations to, to trust humans and get food around. It's the same difference. The remaining dragons are doing the same. And they're hiding in places in plain sight. But the enemies don't bother them, they don't know they're there. And there's apparently a whole family of them here. There's even a purple dragon that reminded me of Lentazar, but thinner. This purple luminescence. And he himself, the other one is like a yellowy, kind of tan green, actually like the bark of one of the trees, but with a little green hue. And they didn't get their names, but there was this octopus thing that came off me. He goes, "Oh, good, another thing. This usually comes out from the deep oceans." "Oh, thank you." And I finally said, "Okay, are you willing to talk?" And he said, cautiously, "Yes, but grand limitation would be 20 minutes. So Joanna's going to have to keep watch on that channel time because of the eyes." And he said, "No offense to us." You know, he did put a flash in my head. It was something that was very sad because we were thinking of Rolento and Lentazar, and I brought those names up. He said, and this goes back to the conversation in the lecture about what time frame are you talking to. And I mentioned those names. He was taken aback. He goes, "Those were some of our royalty. That was a royal line. That's been a while. It's been long ago." And he showed me this image in my head of kind of like the Elephant's Graveyard, but for dragons. It's also like the newer Pete's Dragon movie where they go up to this mountain and you're seeing a bunch of them come out of this crater. It was the version of that, but all bones. Like in Skyrim where they were all dead and then they came back to life because Alduin's return brought them back, kind of thing, because it was a time displacement. It was a time displacement that they had to send Alduin ahead to prevent the apocalypse type of thing. This is kind of similar, where he was showing me all these bones. I believe, by the by, we can ask him this, he was saying that Lentazar and Rolento were actually amongst them. And this has been a long-standing question, but I have questioned dragons because, no offense to this family here, some of the ones we ran across in the past 3-4 years have been a pain in the butt. And been very susceptible. And I explained that whole thing to him, and he completely understood. So, I will, at this point, get a drink because I'm going to actually bring him in, and he's tapping his wrist. That's a universal signature. Oh, hurry up. And I just know, friend, I have not invited a dragon into my presence in a very long time. And can you give me a name to work with, even if it's a pseudonym? And you are invited in only if you are truly benevolent with no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time. You and your family. You understand? Yes. So, can I go with a name? Really, you're gonna call yourself Bob, really? Okay.
Perfect.
Because he floats in the ocean. Okay, yes, Isaac. No, that means he has no arms and no legs. I know the joke. That doesn't even work. Okay, let me see. Okay, yes. Your energy is very intense, Bob. Oh, yeah, big pressure right here. Wow. You have a very powerful energy signature. Yes, I know, yes. Okay, let's go. Let's do this. Oh, Andara crystal works great as a channel crystal. Got this from Stephanie Chambliss, also known as Marvel Bliss. She sells these, by the way. A few $100, worth it if you're into channeling. So, Andara, very rare, like my other one I had that had all the markings on it and was double terminated. This. So, yes, I'm making plugs, so, So, okay. Through this, if you don't mind, Bob. Okay. That is, this is crystal. Let's see the sun. Right. All right. Like this. We require different position. Okay. Forgive the abruptness of the energy signature. I am quite large you would see me as the medieval fantasy style looking dragon. The royal lineages, there's two kinds of myself and what you would call Alentazar's type, where she had, yes, that, but a thinner physique. My wife is like her in her lineages. We're actually mixed. You also had the lineages of the Khazad-Thul, the cat and dog-like looking dragons of the royal lineages, and there are, like in your Chinese types, you had dragons that could shapeshift back and forth, and he is seeing in his mind also your Kublai Khan that could transmute back and forth, and he was Quetzalcoatl and them. These are some of the Untumban lineages that could shapeshift, but we also passed some of that DNA to themselves. So you can say that there is a dragonborn, like in your Skyrim, that even though there was a mod put in that game, you could see where one would shift back and forth, like a werewolf, like a werecat, any of those types of cryptids. So, which we have seen plenty, aliens aplenty here. I've watched them all pass me by and think me a pet of the hotel. How could one be a pet to a lifeless building? Well, it's not lifeless. The people have given it life. And through that of the Tulpa, a will is formed in the life of a structure. Which, it's not lifeless. I know the being that exists here is listening, and I actually jest. But it also forms a different way, like your shining can soak it up from the land. Yes. Yes. So, with this, I state that what I showed to him was true. Your temporal conversations, from another fixed point in your own histories, that you saw that disaster take place upon the mountain. I regret that I cannot tell you where that burial ground is. That was the site of one of the last major fights with our people. We sided the Titans against the Olympians. This, I know in our lineage and our genetic memory, this was Enlil's doing. This was also other galactics that did not want our kind to propagate the Earth. I'm not saying dinosaur. We understand. When you have a brain the size of a walnut, it tends to make it difficult not to eat somebody. We get the dangers. We get what the original colonists 65 million years ago wanted to colonize. We do not blame. But during tensions in the old world, this was before your Orions, I might add. During the old world of the seeding, our kind was not always treated the greatest. And hence the tensions began. I was not old enough to know this by my genetic lineage, but within the genetic memory we carry the memory of the core history, very much like the Tartarian world unity. This is why they want this suppressed. And I will tell you some of the differences in the galactic community started well before the Orion intrusions. They just saw an opening to exploit. Arguments amongst those that have more similarities than they had differences. The Earth is where we call home. The Earth is where our bones lie. The Earth is where the Titans evolved. And you have been given some falsehood information as regards to the origins of dragons. It was in the times of free trade and free openings, during the times when Asgard still was in the skies, that long before our DNAs mingled with a multitude of species. Our original forms are what dwindle. Kublai Khan can boast that he is like us. Of course, we can shift into a form like ourselves if we want to, and he even saw this in his dimensional viewings of a dragon that could switch but chose not to. Think werewolf, like I said. Think along those lines. And your other dimensional selves can do these things. But within our history, we came from here, along with the Titans, along with the spirits of the earth, the Nexus, the Midgard, the guarding the middle ground. People associate us as guardians, like gargoyle types that sit on the tops of buildings, because we sat on the tops of mountaintops, looking down on the valleys below, looking up in the skies to see the threats. This is why we were targeted first. I may be wrong in my interpretation of that, based on a personal bias of our kind. But I'll be damned if I'm going to be the Bob that has no arms and no legs in the joke. Because we live on. We have dimensional spaces. Yes, people like Sean Bond saw us as dwindling, trying to hide. Absolutely so. But we have a dimensional space, world space of our own. Because it is still Earth. It is still dimension. It is still introverse. It is still our home. So, I must digress to questions.
Well, I think the interest would be is in your dimensional space that you're in. I guess my only comparison is the Sasquatch or the forest people and their space that they in. That right now, they sometimes kind of phase into ours when they're, especially when they're trying to start open communication to prepare the way for humanity to start to see them and then start to know them a little before we do physically start to see them again. Where are you? I mean, can the Sasquatch see you freely in the skies?
Yes. Oh, most definitely. Unfortunately, as much as I would like to fly, your own people, no offense to yourselves, would be the first to shoot me down. And it has been done so. Even in your ancient antiquity, with the knights slaying the dragon, that is not always associated with the Draco, you see. And they've tried to marry us together like we're the same thing. As he likes to say, they stink of sulfur and cat piss, and I couldn't agree more. They're disgusting creatures that were created in a bottle. We were not created in a bottle, we are pure. And yes, the forest people do interact with us. They are one of the only races that could actually subdue us if necessary. Dogmen or Antiqua as well. There are other galactic races, of course, but they could physically subdue us with psionics. And some reptilians, like your Martian reptilians, could possibly do it. But I wouldn't touch Mars with a 10-foot pole, nor would I try, because it is gross. Too many Nazis, you see. And bugs, and spiders, and other creepy crawlies that have AI plugged into them, and we don't want them in our eyes. Just like you wouldn't, just like he didn't want that. Same difference. They're the eye, you see. They get into our eyes, and we can't ever, it's like having a parasite infestation. We fly the skies like we used to do in the old world. We are seen as the scourge, the one that needs to get the sword taken to us, just like in Dragonheart, as he mentioned, the Dennis Quaid, Sean Connery movie. I am the last dragon. Yes, I'm not the last, but that is actually a perfect rendition of a relationship forming. That alliance that used to be, just like your kind and the forest people. We all had unity at one point, until a few egocentric bastards decided to take too much land during the seeding and didn't realize they were fools in some cases, did not realize there was a species that already held sovereignty on this world, and on this planet, and in the skies above. We also eventually worked it out with them, or we wouldn't be talking about them. But in this case, is the Khazad-dûl homeworld a world or a planet? It is a world. There is no planet. It's right here. Always was here. And anybody else that says otherwise is either misinterpreting, lying, or if they say they were part of that royalty, they were probably lying. And you know of whom we speak. So, with that said, I will pass the talking stick back.
So, in general, I guess the big question is then, how are you guys beginning then to prepare for when the frequencies start to match that you're seeing more? What is your strategy with all of that?
This gives us great anxiety because the last time things were synced, or that we attempted to sync, it was the time of your knights of yore, and you know what happened in that mythology. We were the target, the scorn of the sword. There were many of us that did not survive that, because you had the brave knight that wanted to slay the dragon. Most of the time they were going after the young one, and they did not care. They even held him up as a trophy on their backs. This was disgusting to us, because we knew humans were better than this. We understand the sport. If you're going after some feral creature, we're in full support of the sport. We do the same. But the sovereignty in their realm has a price on its head. The price is you lose part of your soul to that of the hunt. This is what happened to the knights of yore. They are not to be glorified. They are to be the scorn. Just exactly like your Series Germans or Martian Germans glorify the 100 Years' War, when in fact they were the ones that really lost that because they are completely controlled. This is the same thing that happened to Knights of the Round Table. This is exactly what happened to those going on the mighty quests, not for inner peace, but for glory and for the hunt and a trophy on their wall, very much like in your Skyrim, where Yarrow captures a dragon in Dragon's Reach and does not let him go, put him on display, and after a while the dragon didn't even know his own name. This is part of like a story like that. I am not dumping on Vikings, I am not dumping on anything like this, any culture. But when you get to the point where you recognize there's something that exists, but then your faith in your God tells you that you must exterminate this. What kind of God is that? That you must question. What kind of God tells you to exterminate, just like Samson with the Philistines? Same source, I might add, and other hedge-betting aliens and whatnot. These are the same group of assholes that tried to jam all this down our throat. Just they're more aged now, like they think like a fine wine, but it's more like a aged scrotum. So, in this, you hear the anger in my voice, because this is the actual history of what took place to our people. Now, one thing I will backtrack on, not to dump on knights too much, some of them actually did good for the realms they were in, and the time frame they were in. They did good for their own people. Not us, but they did good for their own people. One you're personally curious about in the times of that graveyard, the mountaintop that he sees. They thought that was a safe haven from that of the Titan Olympian conflicts. This is when that took place. Historical curiosity I see in both of you. So, when this began, and I am sorry to say I don't completely have nice things to say about Enki, Enlil, and Anu, or Odin, Poseidon, and Zeus. They are of the same family. They are loyal to a fault with each other. And I realize Enki is considered to be humanity's leading white knight. He did things then too that were less than stellar, but I will admit he got his head out of his butt after a while. I can honestly say that. I'm actually impressed. But during the time of the Olympian and Titan conflicts, he was still trying to help his brother get out of his conundrum. His father, Odin, did he wanted to conquer the Nine Realms to save that which was temporally unsavable? Yes, of course. Like your Pike character in your Strange New Worlds wants to get out of, even though they have a martyrdom thing going on, that wants to get out of the wheelchair timeline, but then notices something happened worse if he didn't, because that crystal he was aligned with. It was the same kind of dynamic where Sears saw ahead to the Ragnarok, and he wanted to see if he could change the stars themselves. He wanted to see if the stars would align and bend to his will. This incited when he would not punish his adopted son. He crowned him Lord High Commander of the Earth. He can go into this in his conversation. We see at a future point. He may have a different take on this. Of course he will. He's a father figure. He and the others are just as guilty for the day those bones became bones. The Orions may have been the catalyst, and I am not disputing they are the catalyst for that history. They are those little scrotum heads that caused a lot of this. No absolute questions. You are responsible for your own actions. And this is not hatred, this is sadness, because we know this is fixable. A trigger in him, knowing that he and the others did not want to die in the Ragnarok, eventually brought about another death. The royalty of our people is not gone. We have a few of that line. The two that you spoke to, were they from another time? I can honestly say yes to this, but you are also seeing not only what happened in the history in more of a flash flip book sort of type of vernacular, when the bright and proud lineage went to a corrupted, just like in your Atlantean times, I might add. And this did happen in two different time frames, Atlantis and much further back, because you're dealing with time travel and dimensional separation, and I don't need to go into the physics. This is why it confuses, because the AI component, again, Poseidon created the damn technology to begin with because he was influenced. Atlantis then gave rise to Titan and Olympian. But other things that happened earlier, because Odin wanted to prevent the Ragnarok, ended up setting the goddamn stage for what came next. And I'm not faulting his achievements. They were many. Like the Vikings always have a saga about this, this, and that. I am not doubting the importance of why, but it was also done from fear. And it set the stage for what came after the fall of Atlantis. This is why dragons have those damn things in their eyes. And that graveyard I just showed, the whole Sea of Bones, that is the period in which your Relento and Lentazar were defeated. You were seeing them telling you their history in a flip book. These were kind people, loving people. One of their descendants actually resides with us. This event took place 9,700 years before yours. In BC, I might add. So it was much further back than that. It was more 13 or 14,000 years. It's hard to tell when you're in a dimensional flux, but you know what I'm saying. This, in a nutshell, is the history. They are in spirit. They are... I know it sounds creepy. Yes, spirit watches. They're watching. Yeah, I know. But the reason that dragons have the thing in the eye is the same reason he had the thing in the eye. And why every SSP person has the thing in the eye. Why they have an altar. Why they have this split. You were having a private conversation about such things. I couldn't agree with the timing more. Yes, victimhood. Yes. Schisms, splits, V2K. You are seeing its modern regurgitation from the Atlantean period. It is the signal of which you spoke about in your lecture. 110% I agree with you. This is our history in what you humans would say in a nutshell. So I pass the talking stick.
So Bob, the time has come. I don't want to keep you.
You can ask another question if you like. I can
It'll
take
be
one
okay?
moment. Yes.
Okay. So in general, again, I find it, amazing, again, that it seems how the play out of history in relationship to everything you're talking, in relationship to the galactics, and then how the exact same thing has now played out in humanity. It's it's been mirrored. It really, really has.
From Atlantis, mirrored from Atlantis. Well, this is where this comes from. The Atlantean Lemurian wars. These fools caused a temporal schism. This is what's going on.
Then would you agree? Because it seems to me that there's so many souls that have come back that were a part of that time, like to make amends, choose a different path, things like that. Be it Atlantis or where their survivors went, which was Egypt, that it just seems like there's so many souls that are here, and we always give the warning, don't romanticize those times.
Never.
You can't just bring in your romanticized energies. All the energies come back, and they weren't good. There was a great fall that happened at that time. So,
and yourselves were there. Your friend Bjorn was there as your Wodar, him as Torag Kal. Yes, marching into battle to defeat Enlil. Yeah, fine, okay. But it would have made things worse. The temporal schism was always supposed to eat that land alive. It was always supposed to swallow it. The people that created your SSP know the same consequences. No looping time and connecting to that signal will always have the same fate. This is why they tell you what you are seeing. This is why they give the way their playbook. They think that they can escape their own Ragnarok. This is what is currently on. I'm not trying to be dramatic. I'm not saying, oh, the Cabal is going away. I'm not entering that crowd. Like what some have spoken about. What I'm saying, because you have to co-create that into existence. Which means you have to make them skip a few teeth in the cog a little bit. Always be a pain in the ass, as like Isaac said. I can agree with him on that. If they try to abduct you, act like a toddler. I agree with him, even though he kind of acts like a toddler. I'm just saying. Yes, we know you quite well, Mr. Jesterman, yes. We have you in our Akashic records, yes. So, not a bad thing. I'm just saying, adding humor, yes, great. But, you must disrupt, like what the Angels Unaware rule, as he was saying, disrupt the ICC. Yes, disrupt their little time schism that they're playing with you. Deletion and reforming timelines like your He Who Remains and Loki. Showing who started this nonsense, and the meat puppets, as he likes to say, that continue with this. War never stopped. From Atlantis to Nazi Germany to your, again, paperclip, your NASA, your Martian Germans, the whole bit. It is the same history. It's not a mirroring of history. It's mirroring, yes, but it is a continuation because this war never stopped. You say the last great Orion War. It's not great. I'm just saying that means large. I know. It never stopped. These fights, the Tuatha De Danann versus the Fomorian Wizard, all these things never stopped once. There no war between the Titans and the Olympians. As long as one remains that remembers the old hatreds and not the unity, these wars continue. This is what I wanted to say.
Well, thank you, Bob. And any last words at all before we close this out?
Yes, we're appreciative of giving us a voice. We understand, family, I understand the trepidations because of what you thought was a trick. What you were seeing was pools in time, ripples in history. You were interacting with the souls of good people. You were seeing as if it had just happened because you yourselves were there then. Because it was undealt with, you were seeing it not as past, but as present, because everything is happening at once. If this makes sense. And you were also in your Nightdale house on a temporal fracture point. These fracture points sometimes could be microscopic, the size of a grain of sand, or a pea, or one as big as a Bermuda Triangle. It is all because of Atlantis and Lemuria. Primarily because they and their great technologies, they had such a responsibility to not act as boobs. Yes, Isaac, I'm not defaming real boobs. I understand. Yes, you like to disrupt with humor and rise with humor. We see this. You've always done it. This, I recognize your energy signature too, red-haired man. So, elf or all white or half human, whatever the fuck you want to call yourselves, Ant-Man. I don't care. So, we know your energy signet in whatever body you happen to be using at the moment. But in this. These two had a responsibility not to let the darkness in. And whatever was linked to that had to be swallowed. This is ultimately what you call fate and destiny. Can the horrors surrounding it be avoided? They think. Your cabal and your Nazis alike think. If they tell you what they're doing to you, that if they're raping you in the ass, that you'll go, please sir, let me have another. You can't allow that. You can't allow that. And will history swallow them and they're just suddenly gone, like how Gallifrey was in the David Tennant Doctor Who, the last one, where when you reversed it, it went back? No. But the timelines in which they are operating on, you call it the backstage will. The frequencies in which they have been bastardizing, holding in place like your master did in Doctor Who, where he created the TARDIS paradox machine, where he could create his own temporal schism and it didn't have consequences until they destroyed the paradox machine. It's like that. They have something like that in place. It doesn't mean your history changes. It means your path suddenly gets back on the rails from being derailed. And it doesn't mean that there's a great awakening. It ultimately means that people will not be as controlled, but here's the kicker. It doesn't mean that equipment gets suddenly shut off. It means once you've risen out of that and realized these things, you yourselves will shut it off. Not just with co-creation, like, co-creation, yes, like you and Miles Johnston, who we do support. We actually think he's hilarious. We saw this whole thing. We know once you have co-created differently. These are psionic resonators, just like in that same two-parter episode where Martha went around getting people to send energy to the Doctor and thoughts to the Doctor, and those same psionic resonators healed him completely. And also the archway they show in that, healing people planet-wide, it was an alien technology. The green guys with the spikes, they look like cactus, and somebody said that was a racist remark, and that's an actual race that's being shown, by the way. They are here on Earth. They look like cactus flowering plants. Your lady friends, the little young woman that saw one of these that was green, is actually one of those. They're kind of plant-based, but yeah. Anyway, they're not evil, they're just kind of naive. But in this respect, could this be used in that similar way? The psionic dampening. If you flip the polarity, can you flip that polarity with co-creation? Absolutely. Then it'll respond. That equipment will respond to a new master. And in that, you reset time itself. You're jumping timelines, yes, but you will end up on the timeline that is greatest for yourself individually, but can you end up on a global one that co-creation stands firm? Yes, you can. And in the same way, they showed you an instruction book as to what was happening in those episodes. So he has it in his mind and in his library because he recognizes the disclosure. But I will end this here, but just know we are still here even after so many generations. After so much, that graveyard eventually will be open to the public. You will see our bones because you will have to see to remember us. In the respect, yes, so the dragon heads he makes are important just like the Sasquatch ones. Yes, because we can use them to speak to people in a safer respect, like the dolls your friend Susan makes of your no-knit Sherlock. Yes, to speak to people in these other interverse realms like your Traven, and he calls himself an elf, but yes, there's part tall white, part there's Tuathan and human, and that's a big mix. Tartarian, yeah, help it. Anyway, whatever they want to call themselves, their Harry Potter world. Okay, Wizarding world. But I was just corrected, but yes, they were here with you guys too. But it's important to remember, one day you will see that graveyard. You will remember that history. You will remember our unity. You will remember us. Then we are safe to come out in the open. When you retract back before the times of the knight's quests of yore, and remember this, that is when we can reappear in safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
There's actually no real love lost between the dragon people and some of the Asgardian. There's a schism there. They believe that there could have been more done by those they thought were on their side, which there's a schism there in any controlled situation. There is an anchoring towards those they've been controlled, they wouldn't say or do a certain thing, and then there's some that will misinterpret because they don't know, they aren't seeing the real person, there's no discernment. But this is how the Asgard. I will say this is part of galactic history. Odin and them, yes, were trying to get back the being they knew before he had the vampiric contagion, before he was all fucked up. That's Loki / Enlil. They're trying to get back the person they knew for millions of years. But then we're seeing the fucked up version. This is the argument can go back and forth because humans are just seeing a devil-like figure. I get the argument there. They're wanting their guy back. I get it. The person they laughed with or cried with, that person. For millions of years. This has also caused a schism with their allies. So there is always this tension because of issues like Enlil. So this is what he was getting at. So, do you want to add anything, Joanne?
No, not at all. I hope everybody enjoyed this. I hope they enjoyed the lecture, and we will be continuing conversations like this.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and yes, the dragon family. There's actually far more of them around here than I thought there were. They some are oceanic. They don't like the ocean-faring Draco, the ones that I call them trans Draco because they look like they're both genders and they have fins instead of horns. They hate them. They cause those little gobsmacker things to fly around as spies and stuff like that through your TVs and such. They've integrated into the binary network. But yes, bad, evil. So do not mix up. They want to say do not mix up Draco and dragon. Even though Draco is the root word in our English, they fused it together, like I said, the whole Christ consciousness thing with your oversoul argument where they fused it together so that you would put your energy somewhere else religious-wise. This is factual, historical, anthropological information. They want to say the other was first, when in fact, dragons were first. And it's not chicken and the egg like the whole nature, what came first, nature or space or time or what have you. Every species has a different interpretation of the chicken and egg. This has a factual thing. Draco came second because dinosaurs' DNA was stolen to make them. There is an order of succession. So I will cap this here. I now close this conversation and this show within true benevolence and the circle within true benevolence and no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time. Thank you everybody for watching this. This was interesting. So bye-bye now.
Okay, date and time stamp for today, conversation circle closed, was on 5:06 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Friday, July 19th, 2024. Thank you.
One thing I would say, this was a synchronicity between me and Bjorn's session that happened before this, where we learned about Poseidon and the creation of this technology, the foot spikes and all that. I'm making that available on GalacticInterstellarCouncil.com.
He's given me permission to put that snippet up about the formation of that technology and the Atlantean corruption. So, because it was perfect for this. So I won't add it on to this show, but I will put it up on GalacticInterstellarCouncil.com as its own separate recording. You can go there and subscribe to $5 a month to see it, or if we gave you one of the free 3-month coupons at the conference, go ahead and use this. In fact, I'm going to do this. I will put the QR code attached to this episode, but it does have an expiration date on it, folks. So I will add this since we gave it out. So that's a thank you to us from us here at the Lifting and Galactic Interstellar Council combined. So it is 5:07 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Is 5:08 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Friday, July 19th, 2024. Thank you. This Andara crystal here, perfect for channeling. Like I said before, the Lemurian crystals are bigger. Ironically, said Lemurian, and regular crystals even bigger, like that big cylindrical one I used to have. This one, Andara crystal, or if you can come across an equally sized or slightly smaller quasi crystal, will work. Even Sean Bond told me about this, about also not only doing the entity trapping thing. If you come across, some gnarly thing you have to do that whole ceremony for, with the crystal and the bowl and the spikes and the iron spikes, and you can go on our episode about curse magic and all that other stuff for the lifting to get that information. But with this, it just follows the same rules. Sean and I were discussing this one time on a recording, whereas essentially the stone, the better you get at doing that, the stone could be the size of a pocket stone after a while. But in crystal form, Andara is stronger than Lemurian crystal, which is slightly bigger. You've seen that one I used. And then the bigger one was a regular crystal before that. Andara is better for channeling. And quasi, I would assume Odin said all you need is one for a Tower Buster. Teeny one? And it would amplify and protect a home with one little piece. Can't find quasi at the moment. But that would be even better. And Andara, beautiful for channeling. So I will end this here. It is 5:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Friday, July 19th, 2024. Thank you. Okay, we are here at the Serata, still, last day before we're leaving. And I'm going to use this before we leave. Now, gotta get away from all this noise here. I'm going to ask some poignant questions beforehand. Maybe add to them as we're going along. But, one, what caused the power outage last night? 2, who is Alexander that caused a lot of the V2K garbage? 3, were there any ETs present here, good or not so good? And I will end with a message from our true benevolent guides, true benevolent Isaac, true benevolent Lena Vessa. So, and true benevolence with no conflicting agendas, of course. So, opening this circle now.
Xbox. Danny. FM.
Sáquelo.
heard get ice cream. That may have been a commercial, but I heard get ice cream.
Actual person. That's all.
What's going on, guys? Who is that? All right, any final words from our allies, friends, true benevolence? All right, thank you. I heard you're welcome, so. Okay, we're gonna end this, close this circle for this Ghost Box session as of this moment in time, asking that all negative energies incurred by this be audited by True Benevolent Source Creator, True Benevolent Earth Mother, and the True Benevolent Verses, whereas codes are audited and deleted where appropriate, made across time and space where appropriate. It is forever so in all moments, all sessions, and expressions. Okay, closing Ghost Box Circle. It is 8:49 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Saturday, July 20th, 2024. Thank you. I'm doing this before it gets wiped out of my head. I wrote it down, or I typed it out on notes, but there was a number synchronicity, and I don't always go for those because simply, you don't know which. Sometimes you have to really discern which side is creating the different synchronicities, like with music and numbers and clocks and all this other stuff. Sometimes it's personal, sometimes it's not. Messages for one or messages for all. In this instance, that is very loud. But in this instance, that's rain, by the way. In this instance, it's I thought during the night before the blackout at the Serata, I had somebody mess with my eye. The number is, though, pointed towards more voice of God technology, and that pointed more towards V2K harassment, like some incidences that were happening there. I won't mention the personal incidences, but I'm just saying there were signs pointing to this. So the numbers, all of synchronicities I was seeing, all seemed to point towards, okay, this was primarily, if not the only, harassment type that was there. It was V2K or Voice of God. So, yeah, I thought somebody had injected something in my eye. I got this weird blur going down my eye. And I'm thinking primarily this is Havana syndrome remnants and a lot of the grip that was in my eye from both the shingles and the nanos. But time will tell. But this is, I'll put an image up of the number synchronicity. It was too long to actually say here, but I'd speculated injection in the eye that would have had something else here. So it looks primarily that it's V2K. So you got to be careful what it's pumping into your head. And I've been in a daze since we left the Serata, but fine now-ish, but the eye is still blurred. So these are symptoms of that other thing, so I'm just speculating. Intuition's telling me that it's mostly mental, but this is just an update there. This attaches also the Agent Smith conversation, but it was also some of the things that were going on before, during, and after the conference. So, conference is great, wonderful, all of that, camaraderie great, everything great. But of course, the bad guys have to poke with a stick. So this is the stick. So that's that they poke with, primarily. Physical encounters, didn't really have any. with them. I was told this morning, and I didn't say this to Joanna, but Isaac, Elaine, and Vess and them said it was going to be fine later on, meaning, then they say that, meaning that something that I don't like has occurred, and I will be pissed about. So, this, of course, my eye getting fucked with, yeah, I'm pissed about, and I'm disoriented from that. Obviously, there's something physically up there, so I gotta get it checked, but at the same time, yeah, I think it's primarily all this other garbage. So that began the process. So, like before. The other half of the equation was the 9s, not the 7s. 7s was God number, 9 was completion number, or the 9, meaning source, supposed to be source thereof, meaning Egyptian pantheon, the Cabal 9, the Gene Roddenberry channeled 9 from the Earth Planet of Choice book. That I forgot to put in the little synopsis deal, but that trying to peg the alien sources, but at the same time, like 7 being Enlil's number, you know, right hand of God, Michael's number, that whole bit, that's actually in history. But the 9 being the other, being Cabal, origin Egyptian pantheon. So that's where in Nebraska, you know, people that were in the metaphysical areas, New Age areas, were talking about the 9 quite prolifically because of that book and because of Roddenberry's channeling. So that came up because of the book Earth Planet of Choice. Not dumping on it, I'm just saying that's the origin of some of that. But just like I would call out to that, you know, maybe clear the skies on a rainy day or something like that. A lot of the metaphysical people did that, and it worked, of course. Or to make it rain, and it did work. Anything to do with elements, anything to do with anything really. Like they would pray to God or pray to a God. But who knew about that then? Who knew about that particular source then? We didn't. So this is that other half of the equation, and 9 means completion in numerology too, completion of a cycle or a task event. 7 is number of God. I believe 8 somewhere in between means cycle, interchange, or transition, or some kind of evolution in between state. So, or joining unity as well. So, yeah, but it was 7s and 9s. It wasn't 7s and 11s this time. So you can say that numerologically. It holds. So it is 5:16 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Saturday, July 20th, 2024. Thank you. Here was the obvious answer to the synchronicity. You see the room number? 106, that's a 7. The other one, 108, that's a 9, 7 of 9. And I had problems with the I since we started. Yeah, had problems with this since we started. So yeah, where it's all fucked up from before. Blurry vision, the whole bit, what I said this morning. So I was reading into it too much. It was a 7 of 9, IP's board, I. Somebody was just warning me about the I. And then of course it pops up as 3-4 as the number, another 7. So, yeah, so, okay. That's the time, so it is 8 and 8, okay. It's 8:48, that's our, Joanna May's number is 8, okay, 4, yeah. Heart space 4, yeah. Alright, it is 8:48 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Saturday, July 20th, 2024. Thank you. Okay, this qualifies under the Dreamtime Invasion. This is, we're still on the trip, by the way. And I, you know, in the dream, me and Joanna were in an old cottage, like an old English cottage, really old, or Irish, and this was more English, had the old wood, old glass, everything, you know. Following this entity around into an area where it was an old bedroom of some kind, like you'd expect, you know, haunted place of some sort. So, went in there, and she refused to go in. Went in. I went in, and all of a sudden I'm seeing it's lit up, all of a sudden the environment shifts like a matrix. And there's these two broadcasters like selling tickets to something, you know. Oh, we can sell this or do that, you know. Typical, you know, small talk. You know, at least actually that, and they started small talking, you know, after the ticket sale thing. After I said no, I'm not interested. It was like an ad, essentially, and I found out Isaac put these distractions in place for a reason. And all of a sudden the room darkened when I know the entity took re-control of the whole situation. I'd been talking to it beforehand, and it was all sputtered out and everything. And Isaac apparently had already analyzed this entity and noticed how powerful it was. And all of a sudden the room's dark, and it's just a bed. You could see sunlight coming in through, like, outside. And I remember telling Joanna beforehand the graveyard needed to be cleared. I don't know where that came from, but I went in, when I went into the room, distraction, and then entity, female entity sitting on the bed, said, "Oh, now that we can be alone," knowing full well before there was somebody there all before, and that was Isaac, and I'll tell you why. Because all of a sudden this computer code pops up, kind of like when you're playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and it shows how strong the enemy is, and it has a little skull in front of it, and it says like level 380 or 260 or 120 or 140 or something like that, and it shows either white, green, or red, depending on whether it's neutral or you can beat it or not. It was like that with The Witcher as well. The Witcher 3 Game of the Year edition Wild Hunt. It was the same scale. A lot of games are that way, where even the old Japanese ones, the hit point ones, you can see if you're strong enough to beat it or not. And some of those games I would used to just tap them and kill them slowly and then level up quickly. That was a tactic that, it's unorthodox, but it works. But in this case, it was set up this way where it said G something. It was like, I can't remember the code, it was ___. You have to be this type of player to beat this bad guy, or to defeat this boss, or something like that. And that's how Isaac said that loud and clear. He put it in my head from his tech, and basically he was saying walk away. And I did. I confronted the bad guy like you're supposed to in a Dreamtime invasion, but this one was above my pay grade. Yes, it's hard to believe, but this was a Class A of some kind that I had no knowledge about. I'm like, okay. I walk away, and that was that. Woke up. So it is 7:51 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Sunday, July 21st, 2024. Thank you. Interestingly enough, in the Ghost Box sessions that I've done, this coincides with something Miles Johnson told me about a lot of the workers that were hired out from Ireland, for doing work in Antarctica and other places. And a few on the Ghost Box have repeated the same Irish woman pops up, and some English too. And then people that remember being abducted by military, he said, people remember the steering wheel on the wrong side, meaning they're from the United States, and the people taking them somewhere from British Isles. So, yeah, I find that very fascinating that several people in these recordings have accent from the area. So there's something to that, I feel. So Isaac said I was on the right track. Not necessarily it being broadcast from there, but workers from there doing these things. So I find it interesting. At first I thought they were V2K operators, but Isaac insists they're not. That some of the V2K operators even have accents from over there, which I find interesting, but I don't believe all these are that. And of course you got the ghosts, you got the aliens, you got the AI, you got all that. You can't trust this completely, but I'm just saying it matches up to things I've heard and seen, which I find fascinating. Even though there's bad stuff in there, interesting synchronicities and validation. So through this means, at least in part. So it is 11:42 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Wednesday, July 24th, 2024. Thank you. I've noticed some of these EVPs don't make any sense on there, and they don't have to. They might make sense to someone, a revalidation to someone that sees this in the future at some point that stayed at the Serrata. It could be an echo, could be a ghost, could be somebody was discussing something like when he calls, don't forget mom's documents. That doesn't apply to us. It doesn't seem to. At least not right now. Could be something ahead of time for us, or it could be bullshit. So if it makes sense to someone, please put it in the comments below. But just know that it's not there's a messages for one or messages for all type of concept out there. If it has to be more to the individual or the family versus, oh, this could apply to anybody. No, I'm looking for a specific answer here, not a flighty one. I don't mean to be insulting, but messages for one or messages for all. Remember that conversation we had? Not all messages are for everybody. This is one of those. I can feel that in my bones. So that's what I'm looking for. Not a bunch of, oh, this applies to me, this applies to me, this applies to me. No, very specifically. Someone that probably stayed at the Serrata or surrounding area around there in St. Pete's that could apply to. And on the floor, we were on the 4th floor, I believe. I was like room 14, I think 12. I'll have to fact check that one. See, there's always validation out there for somebody. That's the point I wanted to make. Just like I was reading somebody, this person wanted validation for that it was their father they were talking to. And I said something about wrapping an arm in something. The person started bawling. I had no idea what I was hearing. I just passed the message on. That was proof that was that person. Granted, V2K operators know that, but you know the feeling when it's the legitimate article. Just like somebody else carried the driver's license of their son that passed. He came through and said, "Why?" Before the person ever said it, "Why are you carrying my driver's license around?" And she's like, mother's like, "Oh my God." And the person I was reading's brother had passed, and then her mother was there. So, yeah, you don't know what's validation for somebody. But the thing of it is, sometimes the dark side gives false validations, false synchronicities, so you get hooked into what's known as EVP addiction, too. These devices are good at that. EVP recorder or ghost box. And then it just brings through demons lying to you after a while. That's why the thing gets corrupted after a while. That's why I ditch them, because it gets attachments. It takes a long time for that to happen and a lot of use, but it happens after a while, like the one we had to destroy and give a Viking funeral in Nightdale, the one we did the recording of the fire pit. That's why. I was wondering what was going on. That's when I first discovered the concept. So, it is 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Wednesday, July 24th, 2024. Thank you. Oh, at the end of that EVP, when you hear them saying, just leave it to us, hi pussy dude, that whole bit. We've loved you, all that other stuff. I believe that's that Alexander dude that caused a friend of ours a lot of grief on EVP. Came through on a phone and then caused fighting and all this other shit. I won't go into people's personal details, but yeah, I feel that's it right there. That whole thing with Ben Franklin, though, man, that was probably the weirdest message that I've ever gotten. And Isaac and Elena Vessa already told me that the end part wasn't them. I believe it was Alexander. So, or this EVP, or no, not EVP, this V2K shithead. I believe. Now I'm going to relabel or label all of his stuff as or EV2K shithead. So, anytime he comes through, we'll know. So, yeah, that's a new one to look out for. But I thought that was funny. And the Akim Ra will sprout a tail and then announce. I needed to laugh out of that one. That was actually pretty good. So, no offense to you, Akim. I thought that was pretty funny. Isaac has a sense of humor. He'll notice if he likes you, he pokes fun at you. So, yeah, you must be doing something right to get a joke back like that. I thought that was hilarious. The Eraser Past bit, I don't really know what that is. I'm overlooking that. Maybe you know, Akim. I don't know. But, let's see here. I'm looking at, yeah. Okay. Yeah, Racer passed. Her second husband, Chris, was right. You can trust him. I don't know what that is. So, maybe you got some insight. So, maybe nothing. Maybe BS. Maybe be a validation point. I don't know.
my intuition says there's something to it, regardless of who it's for. And that was from Isaac, so he's not saying. The joke stands, though. I thought it was hilarious. So, probably because people were dressing up in costumes and all this other stuff, it was something to that. We weren't completely around for the costume thing. We went out on the beach, and we're in the water. Next time we'll have to stick around more and come up with a costume or something. But yeah, we didn't see a part that may be relevant to as a joke. So don't take offense, Akim, if you hear this. So nice to meet you, by the way. We didn't get to really mingle as much as we wanted to. So it is. And hello to Drago and all of the ones we didn't get to say to really talk to. So this time around. So it is 2:36 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Wednesday, July 24th, 2024. Thank you. Also, to be fair, Isaac did warn close the session a full minute before the insult EVPs came in. So knowing full well that was going to be in there. I noticed just add 327 out of 451. That's the original edit times, not what you see in the full thing in just the ghost box section. The 3rd minute and 27th second in, and 20 millisecond in. To that, you can time it through that. Yeah, that's where he said stop, and I didn't hear it beforehand. So I went too long, and you run the risk of getting all the corrupted dark crap in there if you go too long. So prolonged exposure, between 3 and 5 minutes generally, which I did. I was well within that, but obviously it got pushed back a little. So to the 3 minute mark instead of the 5. So it's right about right. Depending on the area, depending on the energy, depending on the saturation point of an area, depending on what hits the ghost box, what conduits hit when and where and by whom. So, and from when too, you can get the time layers just like we said in the lecture. It applies to the ghost box too, because you get ghosts, you get residuals, you get people stuck in between the frequencies of the time frames which are in, just like in Star Trek Discovery. Whereas Georgia goes through the temporal aphasia because people in a certain time frame have a certain frequency. You bring them back out of it, they'll either adapt, lose consciousness like they show, or die if there's an aphasia. And she was from a parallel universe. So, because Guardian of Time sent her back, wanted to see if she was worthy of not fucking the timeline up, that whole bit. See if she grew a heart, all that. Well, that was a good part to that, but anyway. The entanglement, just like what propelled them forward. That's why they lost consciousness on the Discovery. A little bit. Temporal aphasia. So, some permanent, some not. So you get that concept of the ghost box too. I even ran into a concept in Lincoln when we were on Hartley. Well, there was a bunch of ghosts that couldn't see each other, so I lifted all the veils in between them. They all got scared. They're like, oh my God, what happened? It's because those temporal frequencies had left a veil in place. Pulled them all loose, and they all interacted. Some were terrified, and then we moved them all on. Even things from caveman period, the Nebraska man period. I mentioned that in the Titan material about encountering the Nebraska man or that Neanderthal consciousness at the time, in the Neanderthal material on GalacticInterstellarCouncil.com. But about the episode about Neanderthals. So anyway, the synchronicity from the Y-Files I told people about his Neanderthal episode. Anyhow. That's where I'm at. But that's what you're hearing. So it is, of course, AI and a bunch of V2K shithead bullies, the whole routine. So it is 2:53 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Wednesday, July 24th, 2024. Thank you. Okay, I think that Hispanic voice that always appears on the ghost box that did Creepy Kids and all that on Conspiracy Sector, Saging of America, I think this is the Alexander guy. I feel that's correct, because he was very threatening in the new stuff, saying he hated me and all this other stuff. I think that's him. And to say that he was worth $15 million,
that shows somebody has some money. That's the Irish lady says that. She appears on all of them too. And in the basically saying he has money to do this and enjoys doing this, basically is the connotation. So yeah, I think it's sickening, but it's interesting. It keeps going on. So we'll see what happens here when I analyze more. So that's what I got out of it anyway. The guy had money backing. Which means this Alexander guy, if he's been tracking for years, which means he's been a gang stalker. So basically, not a handler per se, this is more of a gang stalker V2K shithead. So this solves, I guess, the mystery as to who that guy was, and it ended at the Serrata. So we'll see what happened. So it is 4:06 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Wednesday, July 24th, 2024. Thank you. The reason we got concerned for the dragons is because, they were hiding. Also, the fact that when we were on Thumb Butte and brought in Lyrans and Sasquatch, of course, the Cabal was up there. Famously, remember when we showed on our Patreon those big trucks that could have held a Lyran or a Sasquatch person or a Dogman? That's what we were concerned about, the Lyrans. Some Lyrans got hurt up there. We did channelings up there. I had the room pretty secure, but I don't think it was just over that, but that was our concern for the dragons, Bob and them and his family. So yeah, I don't think they got hurt. I don't believe so, and I don't feel that they did. No. So, but that's what we were concerned about. So it is 5:58 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Sunday, July 21st, 2024. Thank you.
Oh, I was going to say also that what I missed during the lecture was that they try to disconnect people from spirit, and all in all, that's impossible. But trying to they're trying to disconnect people's receptivity to spirit. But I've also had a hard time reconciling the if this or that kind of thing, like the Doctor Strange effect, where I call it the Doctor Strange effect, or close to it, where he hurts his hands, and then he can't be a wizard unless he has hurt hands, but then he can have healthy hands, but not a wizard. That's stupid. The Witcher was the same way, where if they didn't take it from nature's life force, they took it from their own, and that girl's hands got all fucked up. There's truth in some of that, and there's BS too. It's propaganda where people just are discouraged from messing with magic by making them afraid. I think I'm done here. It is 7:13 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Sunday, July 21st, 2024. Thank you. There was one of my little videos that disappeared as to the analysis of the whole Ben Franklin comment on the V2K. So I'll just redo it. It reads, Ben Franklin understood, amongst everything else, that drunks return home and then return to the earth. This actually means I'm being poked at by being called drunk, feeling all of that, from all of the crap that happened, the Phantom Syndrome, the eye, all of it, all the shingles, all of it. And then home and then return to Earth. It was a threat. Basically calling me stupid, drunk, and then I should die. That's really what that meant. I just wanted to analyze that. Not leaving it, I don't want to leave it on a bad note, but the video disappeared. So, now there's also a reason I'm wearing this today. The P2K was pretty bad. So, overall, the whole experience was wonderful at the Serrata. Wonderful. I'll be posting the other version of our conference or our talk as well on the YouTube and Rumble websites, all of it. This show that you are seeing now, this is the show from that we filmed there, and all the subsequent notes, or most of them. The other one will be the talk from the other camera's point of view, the one that Brian Singh provided from the website. So, from the Full Disclosure website, the 2024 now disclosure, or fulldisclosuremovement.org, actually. So, is what it is. So it is 2:06 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Tuesday, July 30th, 2024. Thank you.